Bullshit.
Impact.
Total non-stop action.
I hate this show.
I hated this show before anything happened.
God.
And it's not because I'm a prejudiced asshole.
It is.
It doesn't help I'm a prejudiced asshole. But before anything happened, Mike Tenest, I've combined them in one man now. Mike TNA let us know there was going to be a King of the Mountain match on this show.
Yeah.
Slammiversary is in 3 days. It's main evented by what? A King of the Mountain match.
Yeah.
And we're getting one for free 3 days before the show.
Yeah.
And then they're asking us to pay for it again 72 hours later.
Well, I'll put it this way. This is what I will say about this. If it would have been like a blow-away match, and the idea was you can see it on Sunday with the superstars, maybe you could justify it. I watched that goddamn match.
It sucks.
That made me not want to see this show.
I will pay money to skip this show, actually. I will give you $30 and not come.
Really?
I might actually do that.
We'll have to consider that one. So, yeah, and then it got better because as the guys were coming to the ring for the first match, Mike TNA said King of the Mountain only happens once per year.
He lied to us.
So apparently, well, the fiscal year may end on June 5th.
I see.
Yeah. Booker T and Robert Roode against Christian and Rhino. It was a good opener, and we did get a commercial break. Till the finish, Rhino ran wild and hit the gore, and looked like we were on our way to a fun finish to a fun match when Devon hit the ring for the DQ. Yes, a disqualification in TNA where fucking anything goes. So then AJ ran down to make the save.
Moreover, a DQ in this match where it doesn't matter who wins.
Oh, it apparently mattered a lot.
Any of these four men could have been pinned and no one would have cared.
It apparently mattered a lot. I'll actually talk about that more later, but anyway, AJ cut a promo in style saying that Rhino and Christian, were like brothers. We were like brothers. We can hopefully be on the same page soon. Anyway, bullshit. Then he yelled at Kurt and said he was going to beat the piss out of him at the pay-per-view and threatened to take out Angle's, and I quote, butt buddy Tomko tonight. Yeah.
14-year-olds around the country went crazy.
Hugh Cornette put over AJ as a valiant babyface, said there'd be no interference tonight because Kevin Nash would be special enforcer. It was funny because I sat there and I thought, all right, you're in charge of this show, all right? So you don't want interference. So your solution is Kevin Nash will be there as the enforcer. If you're in charge, why not just say, I don't want no interference? If anybody interferes, fired. Is this that hard? So that pissed me off.
Yes. The wrestling here was fine. The match itself was, except for the shitty finish, there's nothing to complain about. Everything else about this sucked. First of all, the commentators spent so much, they spend their time trying to plug the pay-per-view, which is fine, except the way they were plugging it was, first of all, to say that, yes, King of the Mountain was once a year, not 3 minutes after telling us we were going to see one tonight. Second of all, they were talking about Kevin Nash being the special enforcer for King of the Mountain, and they were asking, is that a plus or a minus for Joe? So what they were asking is, or what they were saying was, if you buy this pay-per-view, you will buy it to see, A, Nash will screw Joe, or B, Nash will help Joe win. Neither of those sounds like anything worth paying for to me.
No.
Then the match ended, and to review, Team 3D came out, and then AJ came out, and then Cornette came out.
Yeah.
Just a parade of crap.
Wow. A parade of crap. That is, I feel that's too strong, Vinny. With all the shit that we've seen in TNA, the fact that we just had interference, someone made the save, and then somebody signed a match, I cannot go as far as to call that a parade of crap. We certainly saw that later on in the show in various areas, but this was just too much stuff happening. I cannot go as far as a parade of crap. Then we had a Borash interview with Joe, who I believe was training with Mr. T.
It's quite possible.
Said he may respect Kevin Nash, but he didn't trust him. Explain that to me, somebody.
No.
A normal person trying to explain that to me. Said that later tonight he was going to confront Nash and ask him what his intentions were for Sunday.
So again, the big tease of the pay-per-view is, will Nash screw Joe?
Had another segment with the generic blonde and the beautiful people who plugged their trading card and had a giant replica which they made the blonde holding in front of her face the entire time. They have a catchphrase, don't hate the beautiful people, hate the game. I'm not joking.
I don't know what that means.
These two are the legit best acts on this show. They're the best heels, and awesome. Plug the street fight later, and then when they left, Kong and Raisha said they were going to cripple some geek tonight.
I love that Kong and Raisha, they always want to interrupt promos, but they don't interrupt promos until the person is done speaking.
Yeah.
They're polite interrupters.
Yeah. ODB and Velvet Sky in a street fight. The good news is Velvet Sky and Angelina Love wore their jeans out for the street fight.
That is, in fact, good news.
Mini buys. In fact, if they just said, for 3 hours on Sunday, the beautiful people are just going to parade around in their jeans, in like, walking down the street.
That's a much better sale.
Shopping.
Sure.
I'd spend $30.
Yeah.
For this fucking pay-per-view, though, no. I just don't want to do it. But anyway, imagine Velvet Sky as a wrestler, and then imagine putting her in a street fight. This was so comically bad that I enjoyed it. And they had an abysmally bad match. They did a bunch of shit.
Wretched crowd brawling, including lots of water and soda pop used as weapons.
Yep.
Not like the cup of soda, the actual contents. They dumped on each other and thought, ha, you're in pain now. And ODB responded by taking a fan's paper sign and striking Velvet with it.
Yep. ODB ran Velvet into Angelina and then got the pin with a power slam. This is no joke. Velvet Sky may be my favorite wrestler right now. As far as just the entire package of the promos, the look, and entertaining me during her matches. Nobody tops this woman right now in this business.
When I saw Velvet Sky in this wacky, bad street fight apply a clumsy octopus hold.
Yes. I'm trying to think of
I'm trying so hard.
There's a very small list of as jaded as I am about the wrestling business after 13 years of watching every single fucking show in the world. The ones that really, like, the idea that they're going to have a match just, like, excites me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe it's like it comes down to Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle, I guess, depending on who's going to wrestle, which isn't anybody these days, and fucking Velvet Sky. She always delivers entertainment.
In some way.
She always delivers entertainment. She's my favorite wrestler right now. God bless her. So, and then Roxy hit the ring afterwards, and they beat on her. It was 3-on-2, baby faces against heels, and then Mickey Knuckles made the save. And again, my favorite group in wrestling is the beautiful people.
Yes,
they beat up Gail. They stretched her arms out like the Thunderbird on the side of the barn, for those of you that remember that. And they put a fucking bag on her head that had a picture of a pretty face on it. I just died with laughter.
And then they posed. Ha ha! Look what we have done.
Yes.
We have put a bag on her head.
Yeah,
and it's the beautiful people who are what they are, and Mickey Knuckles, who looks like every indie geek wrestler ever saw. Her wrestling was fine, but she has no gear.
It can happen, and it's a grand tragedy. But I swear to God, and this would only work in TNA, this would not work in WWE. Angelina Love, Velvet Sky, and Maryse. I swear to you this would turn the wrestling war around. I swear to you.
In your pants.
No, this would be the trio like the Outsiders were for WCW. No joke.
I can't agree with that. I'd love to see it. I don't think
those
it would be biased.
Those three girls would just be like the best. The fucking best heel trio since the fucking Outsiders.
Well, they didn't get Maryse, they had Mickey Knuckles instead.
I swear to God they would turn the ratings around. They would be, I'm like Disco Inferno right now. They'll be beating Raw. I'm like Kurt Angle. They'd be beating Raw in 6 months with these three. But it'll never happen. And Maryse is just like Hulk Hogan. If she fucking came to the company like Hulk Hogan, man. I guess Hogan was there before Hall and Nash.
The strangest rant you ever did.
Just ignore what I just said. All right. Anyway, Jay Lethal's bachelor party. Lethal said he had something very important to say, but he wasn't going to tell Lethal until, Sanjay, but he wasn't going to tell him until Sunday. And then BG had marriage advice, which was to shut up and learn to take orders. And about 15 guys there and one girl in a cage.
Yeah. In the background, mind you.
Yeah.
This bachelor party looked really, really lame.
This was a bachelor party for a homosexual wedding is what it was.
As we would find out later.
We'll get more into that after a while. Eric Young looking for Elvis. I don't care. I look for the fast forward button.
All I know is Eric Young announced, I have traveled hundreds of thousands of miles to Graceland. And in hindsight, I actually love this line. I hated it when he said it, but now that I think about it, that's funny.
So they needed to sit down with Sting. They're still like 60 seconds long. This is how stupid TNA is. It took me 5 seconds to think of this. They should have filmed a 3-hour Sting shoot interview about his entire career, and these clips would have just been a plug for the DVD.
That would be fine.
Instead, it's 60 seconds, and I have no idea what the point of it is. I have no earthly idea what the point of Sting talking about Ric Flair for 60 seconds on Impact has to do with anything.
The point of this, Brian, was to promote the WrestleMania 24 DVD.
Apparently it was.
That's what I got out of it.
Apparently it was.
Sting at the end suggested he might retire. Okay, great.
Oh, no.
He's done it twice before.
King of the Mountain with Curry Man, Jimmy Rave, Chris Sabin, Kaz, and Johnny Devine. For those of you that don't know what this is, it's a stupid fucking match. It's a reverse
It's really quite simple.
It's really
As what's that guy's name? Scott Hudson once said.
It's really quite simple. It's a fucking reverse ladder match. You have to climb a ladder and hang an X. But the only way to be allowed to do it is you have to pin somebody. And if you pin somebody, that guy goes to a penalty box for 2 minutes.
Yeah. It's the stupidest thing they've ever done. They still do it every year. Mike TNA tried to slip
I love that they just think that this is cool.
Yeah.
That's the best part.
Like this is good.
It's like, you know what this is? TNA is like mullets, okay? You've seen the guy and he's just got... I saw a kid once, I'll never forget this. This kid had blonde, like, the blondest hair you've ever seen. Natural, you know?
Yeah,
like almost white. Sure. Almost white, soft blonde hair. About 5, okay? They given him like a buzz cut, and he had a fucking mullet that went down to his ass, and it was like perfectly straight. Imagine doing this to a child, okay?
That should be grounds for taking the child away.
It is. Put the kids that they took out of the,
for parents.
You know, the Texas, the wacky, was it Texas?
What are you talking about?
Or wherever the hell it was, the wacky cult, and they took all the kids away.
Yeah, it was Texas.
Give those goddamn kids back and take this kid away from these parents, yes. Okay? This is just wrong. But anyway, the point is, somebody thought this was cool. One of the parents was like, this is a fucking sweet haircut, okay? This kid's going to be the coolest guy at kindergarten because of this fucking haircut. That's what TNA is.
Yeah,
they have created King of the Mountain, and they're like, this is like our Hell in the Cell.
Uh-huh.
This is just like our innovative, great match that just nobody else can do like we can do. They actually think that this is good.
Yeah.
Baffles me.
Actually, the more I think about them, you're right. We saw guys with mullets in Vegas, and they were not just guys who needed haircuts.
No.
They had trimmed mullets to match their Fu Manchu mustaches.
Sure.
And they thought they looked cool.
Are you making fun of Ed?
No.
Although he does have a mullet and a Fu Manchu mustache.
Think about it, he could fit in that category. But I was actually thinking of other people.
But there's a difference. Ed actually is cool.
That is the key.
The King of the Mountain match, not cool.
Not cool.
No buys.
Moreover, the thing you're talking about how special it was, how it's their preview, their unique spectacle, their one-of-a-kind deal, and they're doing it here on free, I know I said this before, they're doing it here on free TV 3 days before the show. I don't think they ever did Ultimate X 3 days before pay-per-view, or Elevation X 3 days before pay-per-view. I'm pretty sure they've never done anything this dumb before. This may be the dumbest thing they've ever done.
No. They gave Joe and Angle away for free on TV, and it did a lower rating than it would have done if it would have been Angle and Billy Gunn. That's dumber. This was pretty stupid, though. We had, Kaz won, by the way.
Well,
no one cares.
Okay, well, no,
no one cares.
We must talk about it because of how complicated and confusing it was, because that also makes you not want to see the pay-per-view. There was a bunch of guys doing moves, there was a bunch of guys getting pinned, and I was taking notes, and I still had no idea who was eligible or not until they told me, that's it, everyone's eligible. I was so confused. Then they did a deal where 2 guys got pinned back-to-back. It was Kaz and I think Johnny Devine. So they went into the cage. Then someone else got pinned. He went into the cage. It was down to Curryman and Sabin. Curryman tosses Sabin out of the ring. Curryman is alone in the ring for 30 seconds. It's Curryman in the ring, 3 dudes in the cage, Sabin on the floor. Curryman proceeds to take the ladder. The ladder is set up underneath the thing you have to hang the X on. He takes that, he sets it down and puts it over to the side. Then he retrieves the X. Then he takes another ladder and sets it up under the thing. Because you see, he had to kill time. He just had to fuck around in the ring for a bit to kill time. Then he had to climb really slowly. Then the cage door opened. Kaz ran out. Kaz knocked Korean Man down, and Kaz hung up the X.
Yeah.
All well and good. Kaz wins.
No, that's actually not well and good.
Well, there is a problem.
Finish.
There is a problem. Kaz got pinned, and then seconds later, Johnny Devine got pinned. Where the fuck was Johnny Devine at the end of this match?
He's hiding.
Didn't he want to win?
Apparently not.
That pisses me off.
I just love the idea that the Curry Man was climbing, and then the finish was Kaz climbed up and shoved him off the ladder.
I'm sorry, it was Jimmy Rave, not Johnny Devine. But regardless, there was a guy who should have been out of that cage 1 second after Kaz.
Well, I'll defend it in the sense that Jimmy Rave did have a ladder dropped on him, and he may have been injured and unable to get out of the cage. We can at least say that. But Vince, here's what you're missing. This is the big match for the pay-per-view, okay?
Yes.
This is the big fucking match for the pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
This was the match that was supposed to make us want to see that match.
Yeah.
The finish was one guy started to climb, and another guy just ran out and pushed him off and hung it up.
Yeah.
That's the shittiest finish to a ladder match I've ever heard of in my life. That's the bigger fucking problem. This just sucked in every
This was a disaster.
way.
An absolute disaster.
Kong hit the ring with Raisha for the challenge. I noticed some girls I recognized. They didn't even try and pretend they weren't wrestlers. It was Daphne, Amber O'Neal, and Becky Bayless.
By those names.
Yeah. I don't know why people drool all over Becky Bayless. I mean, she's a good-looking girl, don't get me wrong. But, man, there was some commentary in the threads tonight on the board that was just like, have you never seen a girl? No offense to Becky Bayless and everything like that.
She's cute.
On our board, that's a possibility, by the way. Anyway, so they asked Kong who she wanted to face. She chose Daphne. Daphne
is cuter than she used to be.
That's another one that everyone just raves over.
Well, she had the goth thing, which some guys are into, I guess.
None of you seen Maria?
Daphne's not as cute as Maria.
None of you seen Stacey Keibler?
I just said she was cuter than she used to be.
Okay. Fine. My hair's longer than it used to be.
Congratulations.
I don't know. I was just saying something that, who gives a shit? That's not saying
Well,
much.
that's fair. All right.
So anyway, she had her own mouthpiece and MMA gloves. She lost.
They're no good.
I've already given up on this show. I don't even care anymore.
The highlight of this was Becky Bayless and Amber O'Neal marking out for the Carnage.
Yeah.
Thinking, wow.
Bayless did in fact mouth "holy crap" from the front row.
Yes.
Wacky Abyss video. Again, who cares?
He threatened to kill someone.
Blonde interviewed Nash. Joe walked in.
The bitch!
Again, this is another... Does TNA... I mean, get Jake Roberts there, somebody, to explain that you don't always have to yell. I can't remember the last time that Joe cut a promo without yelling. I'm sick of hearing Samoa Joe yell. I am sick of hearing Samoa Joe yell. I am sick of hearing Kurt Angle yell. I am fucking sick and tired of hearing Karen Angle yell, and I'll get to that more. But anyway, Nash was like, dude, I've never done anything that wasn't for your best interests, and Joe was still mad. And here's the whole deal, everybody. Nash turned his back, gave Joe a bat, said, go ahead and hit me. Joe said, if I'm going to hit you, I won't be holding a bat, and I won't be doing it to your back. What this means is that Joe is going to turn heel by hitting Nash in the back with a baseball bat. If he does not do this, which actually I fully expect this not to happen, then this is the dumbest fucking company that's ever existed on this earth.
They're not going to do it. Because of the dumbest company that ever existed.
They must.
No.
This was written in such a way that this is what has to happen. You understand? This is like if you write 2 + 2, it has to equal 4. I don't want to hear any higher math bullshit. This is just basic arithmetic. 2 and 2 has to equal 4. Joe doing this promo means he has to turn heel by hitting Kevin Nash in the back with a bat. If he doesn't, fuck you, TNA.
If he does, fuck you, TNA.
No, I'll be fine if he does.
No.
At least it'll make sense.
I hate them.
Then we add the bachelor party stuff. There was an article that Bruce Mitchell wrote in the Torch. I don't know how many weeks back it was. It was a couple, 3-4 weeks. But he was writing about basically that how gay TNA is. You've got a guy like Robert Roode. He's got 2 girls that he's making fight, but he has no sexual interest in either of them. All of the breakup of BG and Kip James, all of this, it's a completely homoerotic promotion.
All male love stories. Joe and Nash having a continual lover spat.
Indeed. He pointed all this out, and I read it, and I was like, this is a good column and comical, in fact. Well, then I saw this, and fuck, if Bruce Mitchell is not right, no man is. The fucking bachelor party, which is noted, all dudes, opening mail, talking about dudes that are going to be at the wedding. Sanjay Dutt finally says...
With no shirt on.
With no shirt on. A dude with no shirt on in a room with nothing but dudes.
All drinking.
All drinking. Finally goes, what bachelor party would be complete without a stripper? And I was like, well, finally, a chick here. Who's it turned out to be but Billy Gunn, who got up on the stage, hiked up his underpants, and started shaking his ass. It just shook his ass, and Sanjay's putting money in his tights.
Yes.
And I'm like,
this is the gayest bachelor party of all time.
This is seriously the gayest thing I've ever seen.
Roman orgies were not this gay.
No. This company.
All I know is Kip started to dance, and he looked like he was having so much fun, I couldn't help but laugh, and boy, did that make me feel dirty.
Not to mention, Kurt Angle will not fuck his wife. Oh. Apparently, AJ Styles will not fuck his wife. She will not fuck AJ Styles. It's just a giant... Wow.
Sausage fest?
Yeah. It is in fact a giant sausage fest. So, that leads us to, well, there was a match in the middle. I guess I could talk about it very quickly. Hoyt and Kip James and James Storm beat LAX and Matt Morgan, I think. No, Morgan pinned Kip with a shitty F5. And
we then had a long debate about whether it was incorrect X5.
You were in fact correct.
Or just a shitty one.
Just is no good.
I actually don't blame you because it was really, really shitty and it's hard to tell.
Yeah. So anyway, let's just move on. Steiner and Petey did a promo, which was actually funny because
Steiner didn't know what the Terror Dome was.
No, well he did. Steiner's like, why is Kaz getting a shot against Petey for the X title? He doesn't deserve it. And Boras said, well, Kaz won Terror Dome last month. And Steiner's like, that's not a wrestling match, it's a circus act. And I rolled with laughter. Steiner just fucking doesn't care, and he buries everything.
Yes.
Awesome. And then they buried Petey, because he's like, give me that mic, as Boras is trying to wrap it up. He goes, I'm the champ, I'll talk till I'm done. And they just cut to commercial.
Geek! They made the ex-champ look like a geek.
He's a fucking geek. Then we had Point Counterpoint with Kurt and Karen. Fuck you, TNA. I don't ever want to see these two people again. They argued about their relationship. Who the fuck cares about Kurt and Karen's relationship? In what way is this supposed to make me want to see the pay-per-view on Sunday? Kurt bitched. Karen bitched. She cried that she loved him. He bitched. I sat there thinking, what a battered wife this is. In what way is this supposed to equal buys? That this poor fucking woman is abused by her husband and is begging for him to come back. He blames her for sleeping with AJ. She said she didn't sleep with AJ. They continued screaming back and forth. Again, I wonder, who the fuck cares? What about this is supposed to make me want to see this match? Explain this to me.
All I know.
And then it ended up with AJ coming on screen and yelling, also screaming.
Let's finish up the Kurt part first. It's Kurt and Karen yelling at each other. Mike Tenay said they had Kurt Angle and Karen Angle on satellite for obvious reasons. Apparently, if you put them together, Kurt's just going to kill her. That's nice. He's going to beat her senseless. That's good to think about with a great anniversary coming up. Thank you for reminding me of that, TNA. Then they yelled and bitched at each other. They screamed. It was annoying. I hated them both. And here's just what I wrote down. Fuck the two of you. Fuck the Angles. Fuck Kurt. Fuck Karen. Fuck TNA. So, then they cut backstage to Boras and AJ watching the thing. AJ has a look of just hatred on his face. He clearly has watched the same segment I had. And then he started yelling and screaming, and finally he said, screw Kurt! Which is almost, it was a sanitized version of what I wrote down.
Yes.
AJ hates this angle too.
Yes.
This is bullshit.
More bachelor party stuff. Get this, everybody. Sanjay produces a box with a snake in it and announces that Jake the Snake is going to be at the wedding. All right. I shouldn't even have to explain this. I don't even know why I'm bothering. Macho Man and Elizabeth got married like 15 years ago. And the big fucking angle was that Jake Roberts crashed the party with a snake.
In a box.
In a box. The snake bit Randy Savage. We had a huge heel. We had a huge feud on our hands. Okay? So, they're doing the exact same thing with Jay Lethal and SoCal Val. I mean, it's identical down to the way that he asked her to marry him, the way that she said, oh yeah, the entire thing is identical, okay? Everybody watching it that lived through that era, all we wanted was for Jake Roberts to show up at the goddamn wedding with a snake and go nuts. Is this not the most easy thing in the world?
Just have Jake show up at Val and Lethal's wedding and...
Is this not the easiest thing in the world? And even, okay, worst case scenario, Sanjay has a snake.
Yeah.
It's not the easiest, it's not just completely obvious what needs to be done here. They fucked it up. They explained to us that he was coming with a snake.
Yes. Well, otherwise, people might not know Jake Roberts would be there. You gotta sell pay-per-views, Brian.
I just shake my head. They ruined everything.
They do.
I mean, now the Sanjay SoCal Val thing meant nothing, okay? But at least it was campy fun. And it was like, okay, we're gonna have a wedding, Jake Roberts and a fucking snake is gonna interfere, great. Just bring the whole goddamn thing back, who cares? They just ruined it. They just told us what's gonna happen. Or it's not gonna happen.
Either way now. Yes. Was this the worst Impact ever?
No.
No, there was...
The main event saved it.
There was wrestling on the show. That was fine. So
AJ and Tomko. Kevin Nash is referee. This actually was a fun match. AJ beat the living shit out of Tomko early.
Basically, AJ squashed him, really.
Yeah, it was a squash. I hate to make this comparison since you mentioned the 1 year anniversary coming up, but Chris Benoit was a guy who was small.
Yes.
And he was able to make you believe that he was beating up, for example, Sid.
Sure.
Or a giant.
Yes.
AJ can do that.
Yes.
It was very believable that AJ Styles was beating the holy shit out of Tomko.
Yes.
AJ is maybe an inch taller than me. Quite a bit heavier, but he's a small fucking guy.
Tomko's way bigger than me.
He's way bigger than you.
And if you beat me up, it wouldn't look believable at all.
How dare you? It looked quite believable during the battle. But anyway, AJ beat the shit out of him, and it was believable. A bunch of geeks tried to run in, and Nash stopped it. AJ finally hit a Pele kick and a frog splash for the pin. They put him over super strong to build up the angle match, and while it sucks to be Tomko, guess what? This is how you have to do it.
Yes.
This is how it has to be done. There was something else earlier in the show where you could have had a finish, but they had to do even Steven and not let anybody get pinned, the opener or whatever it was. This is how you have to do it. Sometimes a guy has to lose clean. That's just how wrestling is. It baffled me that they did this right here. I was in awe.
Since they did the angle with AJ getting beat down, they've pretty much, except for the moment where he returned and then they cut away 5 seconds later.
I just can't believe the same writing crew writes all this shit. But it's just amazing.
He has been an awesome, pissed off babyface since he came back.
They've done it right. They've done everything right with
It's been,
AJ.
I think, 2 weeks.
Everything wrong with everybody else. So, anyway, then
I will say, if this leads in a month or two to babyface AJ challenging heel Joe for the title, that pay-per-view will be awesome.
I think it's going to be a while.
Fuck.
We had 1 million geeks running in, and
it ended up with the babyfaces having a 7-on-5 advantage.
I would guess it will actually have Joe AJ, with Joe as the heel and AJ as the babyface. I would say by November. That's my prediction. In November, we'll see that match. Maybe Bound for Glory, in fact. That may end up being the main event for Bound for Glory. Who knows? Whatever the big pay-per-view is, September or October, or whatever it is. But that match will fucking rule.
Yeah.
That match will rule like no other. Samoa Joe as a heel versus AJ Styles as babyface. That will be match of the year. I'll say that right now. Match of the year.
Wow.
That's my prediction.
You're smiling for the first time in an hour.
I am. That's how awesome it's going to be. But anyway, Million Geeks ran in. 7-on-5, babyfaces versus heels.
And they still fucked up.
Of course. And somewhere in here, Nash swung a chair and hit Joe. And Joe jumped up and he screamed, "What are you doing?" And they immediately cut to the end of the show.
Yeah, that was the go-home show. Joe screaming at Nash is supposed to make me want to buy the pay-per-view.
I will say this, the main event was good, but as a go-home show, 2 thumbs down.
Oh yeah, I concur.
Yeah. Not as bad, actually, as the One Night Stand Raw go-home show.
No.
Where the final angle was Vince saying you could win $1 million next week on Raw.
I will concur, that was worse. That was worse, but this was no good.
No.
This is not, particularly that fucking X Division King of the Mountain match.
Bad.
Horrible. And I gotta watch another one in 3 days. I feel like I'm being punished.
To the back.
Too bad we don't have any Elvis tonight for the...
To mourn his passing?
To mourn the TNA pay-per-view that I just watched. Can you believe that this is like the 6-year anniversary of TNA?
It's terrible.
This is fitting, actually, right here.
No, this is too happy. What am I saying? The music's happy, the lyrics are quite sad.
Wow. Yeah, this was a pay-per-view. Not really that good. Wasn't the most horrible pay-per-view I've ever seen or anything like that. But, yeah, 6 years of this. 6 years we've been watching this. And this is what they produced.
6 years of a treadmill.
Let's see, what did we get on this pay-per-view? We had some good wrestling. We had some awful wrestling. We had some horrendous, embarrassing skits. We had convoluted bullshit stipulations. Am I missing anything?
Plenty of run-ins and interference.
Run-ins and interference.
Inconsistent rule enforcement.
Inconsistent rule enforcement, for sure. I'm missing anything?
Incompetent announcing.
Well, incompetent dudes on the
production,
cameras.
Yes.
There was actually there was one awesome spot during this show. It's the King of the Mountain match. There's 5 guys in the match and Kevin Nash, so 6 guys. And they're all just brawling all over the place. And, you know, when there's 6 guys and they're all brawling all over the place, it's like, okay, well, make sure we got cameras covering all the action, right?
Yes, they had to cut to a split screen 1 minute into the match.
Now, here's the part. There was a moment outside where a bunch of dudes went into the guardrail, and we saw a shot of a cameraman filming this. Now, in order to get a shot of a cameraman filming this, that means you would have had to have a cameraman filming the first cameraman.
Yes.
Brawling all over the building, and they had 2 cameramen filming the same thing.
Within 8 feet of each other. What's going on with your lights right now?
It's a show!
Your house is rejecting the TNA program?
Something about TNA has just, it's upset the balance of the earth. That's why gas is at $4 a gallon.
It's TNA's fault.
It's TNA's fault. This wasn't like the worst pay-per-view I ever saw, don't get me wrong. But, boy, no reason to buy it going in.
No.
And coming out, it's not even like, it's not even like UFC last night where after you bought it, you didn't feel ripped off.
Yeah.
It was just like, well, that was fine. It was a UFC show. Nothing special, nothing awful. It was fine. This, it's just like, wow. Not only did I not want to buy it, but I spent $30 on it.
Yes.
And at the end of the night, I'm thinking, what could I have spent $30 on besides this pay-per-view?
Either that or with an hour to go, you're thinking, maybe I should just turn the channel anyway. I know I paid for it, but that money's gone. I can't get it back.
King of the Mountain, and actually one of the big problems with this show really wasn't even TNA's fault. I will say that. One of the biggest problems with this show is this shitty Memphis crowd.
They did not help.
Boy, did they suck. Never return to Memphis, TNA. That is a lesson to be learned. Every time people bitch about the impact zone,
including us,
I'm like, those people still go nuts.
They react.
It is sometimes maddening when they chant, "This is awesome," when things aren't awesome. But these idiots in Memphis did the same thing, and they made no noise for most of the show.
Something on the baby faces. The only thing they really, really wanted to see was tables.
Yeah. Stay out of Memphis, TNA. Just stay the hell out of Memphis. Go back to the impact zone where everything's happy again. It's been 6 years, Why change now? Nothing has changed yet. Why change now?
Did they start in Nashville?
And they did.
Okay, so this may have been the first show in Memphis.
Yeah.
Hopefully the last.
So, let's talk about this little program right here. King of the Mountain, of course, Jeff Jarrett's match. Jeff Jarrett was not on this show. They didn't really tease he was going to be on this show, so you can't get upset about him not being there if you're the sort of person that would have been upset for Jeff Jarrett not being there. Some people would be. Don't look at me like that.
It never occurred to me Jeff Jarrett would be on the show, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you haven't been paying much attention then.
I try not to.
Jeff Jarrett has been working out. He's been talking about a comeback. He's apparently in great shape, and this is his match on the 6-year anniversary show, so some people thought he would return. He didn't. And also, for those of you that bought this to see what Kevin Nash was going to do, the answer is nothing. You have wasted your $30. I don't know what to tell you.
He did not screw Joe, nor did Joe screw him.
Nor did he help Joe.
Well, he did.
How?
It did not lead to the finish. Well, Booker T was going to win when Nash threw him off the ladder.
That's because Booker T hit him with a belt. This had nothing to do with Joe.
That's probably true.
No.
And more importantly, the match went for like another 10 minutes before Joe finally won.
This show was it
started off fine. and then quickly went downhill and never recovered.
We had a Petey Williams-Kaz match, which this was one of those things that bothers me about TNA. Now, the wrestling was really good. Don't get me wrong. Now, granted, there was juice, interference, WrestleMania kickouts, and gimmicks in this opener.
Yeah.
And it went like 25 minutes.
Yes.
But other than that, I can't have a complaint about it.
Oh.
Except for this. It's Petey Williams versus Kaz. Petey Williams is the X Division champion. Kaz is the #1 contender for the world title. Kaz is getting a title shot on Thursday. That's the world title shot.
Right.
So how do they set up Kaz getting his world title shot? Why, he loses to Petey Williams. Now, the story they tried to tell was that Scott Steiner and Raka Khan got involved, and Kaz was hit with a pipe. Therefore, he just got fucked. In fact, the exact line that they use, where was it here? They said he was outnumbered. Kaz outnumbered in this match. Okay? Here's the problem. Kaz was, in fact, outnumbered. Raka Khan took the ref. He was hit with a pipe. Scott Steiner interfered and beat him up. He gigged. He was covered with blood. And what happened? Why, he kicked out. He kicked out and he kept wrestling for another good 2 minutes. And then Petey Williams hit him with the Canadian Destroyer and pinned him. So, in fact, this had nothing to do with being outnumbered.
No, he really got pinned clean.
Because when all the people ran in and hit him with pipes and stuff, he survived that just fine. It was the Canadian Destroyer by Petey Williams that put Kaz down and out. There's your #1 contender for the world title. Kaz. Beaten here in the opener by Petey Williams. Clean. There you go.
This would have been a really awesome main event to an indie show, but as you noted, it was the opener.
Yes.
They did everything. By the end of this match, we had seen everything outside of tables.
Yeah.
But we had seen, they both hit their finishers, both guys kicked out. We had plenty of WrestleMania near falls. We saw the interference. We saw, there was no ref bump. I guess we had that to look forward to.
That's true.
But, yes, as a match, it was fine. It was very much point to point to point. They opened with, I think, the longest spot I ever saw. They did about 25 moves in a row. Just boom, 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 and finally Petey bailed. But by the end, the crowd was totally into it, which is rare. By this point, they'd not been burned out, but they were into all the near falls at the end. So this was a thumbs up match, but just not the right thing for this place in the card.
3.5 stars I gave it. I don't even care about this place in the card if Kaz would have won. Sure. Or at least, at the very least, if all that interference had actually led to his loss.
If he had actually lost because he'd been screwed.
Yes, then fine. But when your #1 contender survives all of everything and then loses clean to a move, why isn't Petey the #1 contender?
I also like that after all this time, just changing topics, but someone finally countered the Canadian Destroyer by just not going. Kaz just hoisted Petey up and then stopped.
Sure.
And just dropped down on his head.
And then afterwards, we had an angle. The bad guys were beating on Kaz, and Steiner's like, I'm not going to let you get to your world title shot. I deserve a title shot. You're not getting it. I think he said I'm going to fuck you tonight, or rape you, or humble you, or something. He said something with a sexual connotation to it.
Probably screw. I didn't write it down.
Screw, it was. I'm going to screw you tonight. I was like, oh no. And thankfully Abyss ran down in
his dude pajamas.
His jammies, his loony bin jammies with his name on the back, and laid out all the heels with black hole slams, including Raka Khan. The no man-on-woman violence only pertains to television. You can beat the shit out of women.
Maybe only Florida.
On pay-per-view.
Yes.
So that's, for those of you wondering, yes, women got beat up on the show and treated like shit. I'm sure you're stunned.
So yes, if you're thinking they did this program to lead to Abyss laying out all the heels of black hole slams, too late. He already killed them all.
Somebody, I think it was Happy, he's trying to heel turn on the board. I always love when guys try heel turn, and it's so bad and transparent. He posted the picture of us all at Gallagher's, and the thread title was something like, what does a group of men that have never been laid look like? And you click on it and you get this picture.
Oh,
now,
the humor.
Mind you, this is a 21-year-old man who a couple hours earlier announced that he'd gotten a hand job in a movie theater. His first one. Okay? That's a totally different kind of comedy.
Is it wrong? My first question is, what was the movie?
But anyway, the point was, he wanted to put this picture up, and he said, this is what a group of men that have never been laid looks like. It actually should have probably more realistically been a picture of the TNA management crew. Because clearly there are some major issues with women with this crew backstage. Because
breaking news.
It is breaking news.
But yes, you're correct.
It is breaking news.
They hate girls.
And what an irony about that picture, by the way, since several of those guys...
Yeah, on that weekend, that was the wrong picture to choose.
They may have gotten laid at Gallagher's while I was busy eating...
Or you're focused on the meat?
All that steak, yeah. So, then we had Eric Young showing up and saying Elvis Presley was on the way. He had a ringside seat that said, reserved for Elvis.
This was so dumb.
They've been building this up for a month, mind you.
This is so dumb. This was like 30 seconds, and I hated it all.
So then Nash did a promo talking about money. He said Joe was an investment. He'd invested a lot in him. He said tonight, if Joe lost, Big Sexy lost, and if he won, Nash cashes in. And then, as noted, he proceeded to do nothing, either pro or con Joe, in the entire match.
I am so bewildered by TNA sometimes. Let's review. The voiceover said, and this is literally, Kevin Nash has no loyalty.
Yeah.
He is all about money.
Yes.
I could have sworn that he was supposed to be the good guy in all this.
No one knows.
No one can tell.
We haven't had a script in so long, I don't know who's a heel and who's a face.
A disloyal, greedy person, to me, maybe I'm an outcast. Maybe I'm weird this way, but that sounds like a dick.
Well, apparently not.
I guess I'm wrong.
Apparently not, especially in TNA. Especially in TNA. We got beautiful people and Moose.
Yes. Okay.
There was once a wrestler in the ICW called Moose.
He was, well, no, she's okay. Moose wasn't bad, really, on the ICW scale.
Sure. They faced Gail, Roxy, and ODB. Moose is Mickey Knuckles, and they've given her a new name, but they still didn't give her any new shorts.
No!
So they have Mickey on the back.
And a big set of brass knuckles.
Yeah.
This was followed by
These people are idiots.
Yeah, there was a knockouts video where the girls were trying to talk about how tough they were, how they don't do lingerie pillow fights, and I believe it was, not Velvet Sky, the other one.
Angelina Love.
Angelina Love, who proclaimed, "We embrace physicality."
Yeah.
Then we went to Graceland. We were given a tour and all the facts about Elvis's 8 bedrooms and 8 bathrooms.
Yeah. I was appalled.
I paid for this.
8 bedrooms and 8 bathrooms. He spent $100,000 on it in 1950.
That actually is terribly
That made
appalling.
me want to kill somebody. Anyway, so they had this match, and I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but Velvet Sky is my favorite wrestler in the world. There is nobody in this business right now that more consistently and frequently entertains me than Velvet Sky. Name a single person with such a track record for entertainment over the last month at least. There's nobody.
I was going to say Curry Man, but he hasn't been around much.
Nope, there's nobody that has so consistently entertained me in the last month.
She brings it every time.
Every time, without fail.
Why don't you describe her octopus hold this time?
She puts on the octopus hold and immediately does her hair.
Yeah.
That's the best part. Then she just starts biting on the arm of whoever was in it. I don't even care. I was just watching Velvet. She is so goddamn great.
The best thing was, she fixed her hair. I know she's not that good an actor, but she did it so nonchalantly. She was clearly just fixing her hair.
Yeah.
She was not playing up her character.
No.
Her hair was in her face and she wanted it out of her way.
Yeah, she had to get out of her way in the middle of a hold.
Because really, biting would not be her style. She should have put on this octopus hold and spent 30 minutes primping and preening.
Yeah. I'd have been fine with that.
Yes.
So they got the heat on Roxy, who was growing her hair out finally, thank God. And then they got the heat on Gail, and then finally ODB made a big comeback, and we had a 6-way, and she finally ended up in the ring with the Moose, and she power slammed her in her debut. Way to go, Moose!
Moose is the designated jobber for the beautiful people.
Yeah.
As the match began, the beautiful people bailed and left Moose 3-on-1. She, of course, got her ass kicked, and she finally escaped the ring where the beautiful people made fun of her for getting her ass kicked.
Yeah.
So this is the Rick Steiner in the Varsity Club role.
Yes.
She's going to be made fun of and buried each and every week, and then hopefully in like 4 months, maybe longer, she'll finally turn on them. But for now, that's her role to be the bitch.
I'm trying to think who could replace her in the beautiful people that's on the TNA roster right now.
That would fit in with the rest of the gimmick?
Yeah,
no one, really.
They'd have to... Who could it be? Who else is
certainly not
beautiful in TNA?
Certainly not ODB.
Not ODB.
But during that pre-match knockouts video, she proclaimed, is this what you want to see? And I said, no!
Gail just couldn't pull it off like the act part of it. She's hot, but she wouldn't be able to pull off. They gotta get Maryse. Something needs to be done. I'd offer Kurt Angle back. Or Booker T. I'd go, we will give you him back, just please give us Maryse. I don't care. I'd offer them anybody on the roster.
It's a shame they can't just do straight up trades like that, isn't it?
I'd offer Joe. You take Samoa Joe, and we'll take Maryse.
And you'll get The new beautiful people.
I'd be completely fine with that. Completely fine with it.
I also need to discuss the referee in this match. For last performance, he did a fine job. I need to discuss his outfit. He was wearing knee-high black socks.
This is Slick Johnson, everybody.
Slick Johnson, yes. Knee-high black socks, black shorts, a powder blue shirt buttoned up with short sleeves, topped off with a bow tie.
Yeah.
What a dweeb. What a complete dweeb.
And this is Vince Verhey calling you a dweeb.
Yes.
Slick Johnson. Rhino did one of his wacky promos talking about how he was going to win the title tonight. He didn't. Hate to give a spoiler.
This is quite boring.
Yeah.
We mentioned, at least he wasn't yelling, but he was just speaking in a monotone, boring manner, much like myself.
Yeah.
And no one wants to see me win a title either.
LAX and Team 3D for the tag titles. I watch every show. I forgot this match was taking place. I guess I knew, but...
Dude, I don't think I knew anything on the show besides the wedding and the main event. I guess Kurt and AJ, that's what I knew.
When I just saw their names on the screen. Like, Team 3D and LAX are fighting for the titles, what the fuck? Anyway, crowd chanted, "We want tables," at the heels. Basically, the folks in Memphis didn't like these Mexicans. That's all there is to it.
That's true.
They were not cheering for them during the heat. They were not cheering for them during the comeback. They only cared about Team 3D.
Actually, that's not 100% true, because Homicide's, I believe, is Puerto Rican. They didn't like him either.
It doesn't matter. Foreigners. They didn't like any foreigners.
They don't like brown men.
They didn't like... Oh, what's Devon?
Black.
I see. So anyway, there was a great moment here when Don West is talking about Bubba. And sometimes Don West just goes into total... He can't even pretend to fuck around mode. He's like, "Bubba Ray Dudley, well over 300 pounds. And today's like, "I thought he was 275. And Don, in the most just taking no bullshit manner, goes, "Okay." Just moved on. He recognizes that the man is a fat fuck, and he's not even pretending he's 275.
That's probably... It wasn't quite that smooth, though. Tanay said, "I thought he was 275. There was like 5 seconds of dead air. For once, as the show just ground to a halt. We stopped. And finally, Don West smoothly segued out of it by saying, "Okay," and then went on.
They did a bunch of dives. Salinas took a boot outside from Bubba, which again, women on men, male on female violence, totally okay on pay-per-view. Old school basic tag, nobody cared. Good guys made a comeback, nobody cared. Salinas got involved, nobody cared, including the ref. That was a good one. And Homicide hit a frog splash, and Devon pulled the ref out of the ring, not a DQ. And then finally, Team 3D set up Hernandez for the 3D, but Homicide schoolboyed Bubba for the pin. Match was good early on. Fell off a cliff there at the end.
It fell. The first two-thirds of this, while no one in Memphis cared about it, I thought it was awesome. The early part with the LAX winning on them, then the heat on Homicide was great, and Hernandez got the hat tag, and he was running wild, and he hit a big giant suplex, and then suddenly 8 million things happened all at once, and most of them sucked.
Yeah.
The Salinas went up to do the was up headbutt spot. At the same time, Johnny Devine hit the ring. Hector went in to get him. Salinas came off with a big headbutt and then wiped her mouth because her face was in Bubba's crotch and it was smelly. And there's just 8 million things going on, and then it just kept going and going and going. And then when it finally ended, it was just the most anticlimactic. "Okay, I will roll you up. Ha-ha. We win. Great. No buys."
So yeah, that was that. We had Robert Roode interviewed by Borash, who basically cut a babyface promo saying he was going to win the title.
He was also quite boring.
And
quite
he also
monotone.
did not.
No, he also failed, yes.
No.
I think. And I'm not entirely sure, but I think we're up to the Awesome Cog segment.
All right. She came out to kill some indie geeks, and Raisha now carries a briefcase that supposedly contains $25,000. First girl was Serena Deeb of Florence, Missouri, who said she'd been training in MMA. She didn't do a single MMA spot.
Yes, she needs a new trainer.
The other girl was Josie from Derby City Wrestling.
Adam Revolver's woman.
That's right. That's right. He should have been here to protect her. Kong killed Serena, including 2 swings into the barricade that nearly killed her, and then an implant buster. And then Josie was next, and they billed her from being from Memphis, and the fans bought it. And so she was a super babyface, maybe the most over babyface on this entire show.
Yeah, in hindsight, she may have been, particularly when she insisted to fight. She signed the contract, then slapped Kong across the face, and dove over the barricade on her, laid in the punches, and the building went nuts.
Yes. This was the best thing on the show now that I think about it.
It was actually the best part.
So finally got a good bit of offense in, and then Kong hit her with the back fist, then took off the gloves, gave her another one, clothesline her in the corner, and awesome bombed her for the pin. This was in hindsight, what a great segment this was.
Well, Are you counting the big finish?
No, just this.
This part. Okay. This part was great. Then, because it's TNA, they have to ruin everything. So Kong is standing in the ring with
Hold on. You got to talk more about that segment because I want to do the segue.
I see. You get to talk about the good part. I have to talk about the part you already discussed in great detail.
Yeah.
Kong killed 2 indie geeks. Yeah. And I already discussed in detail the part where Josie driving over the barricade was the best part of the entire show.
So anyway, I remember a couple of minutes back on this show when we played a bunch of bad songs in a row and the show ground to a halt. That is what happened on TNA. This was where they decided to play a bunch of bad songs. The first involved, ironically, Elvis, who came out with Eric Young. Eric Young introduced him and then ran away. He just ran backstage, knowing how badly this would fail. It failed.
It failed before Elvis took 2 steps.
Worst Elvis impersonator you've ever seen. He's in some indie worker. I forget who it was, but he is.
It doesn't matter.
And Kong killed him and gave him a power bomb that I actually felt bad for Elvis because he was killed with this power bomb.
Yeah, see, Elvis has now died twice.
Yeah, that was that.
That was the whole thing. Boy, this sucked. This, by the way, was what they built up to for all month.
A month.
Since literally the last pay-per-view, I believe Eric announced that he was going to go find Elvis. It all led to this.
It all led to this segment right here.
A geek came out and got booed. Then he got killed by Awesome Kong and everyone cheered. Yay.
Then Christian did an interview saying he was going to win a title, yeehaw. And then it was time for the wedding. Again, a series of bad songs in a row. This was awful.
It's like a bad concert.
This was not as bad as that 20 minutes on SmackDown the other night with Santino and Cousin Sal and Rodney the Piper and everything else. But this was second place. This wedding. First off, the set was so ghetto. Then they called out a bunch of geeks, including Ace Young, who was the only man not wearing a suit, Kamala, who was wearing a suit, Jake Roberts, got a big pop, Koko Beware and Frankie, who was being quite uncooperative.
Frankie was missing his spots.
Yes.
Koko went to put him on the perch, and Frankie refused, and he climbed onto Koko's shoulders, began to flap his wings, and finally they just cut away. That, in hindsight, was the best part of this whole segment.
Georgie Animal Steel. Sanjay came out as the best man with a feather in a cap, like a dandy. Machismo came out to his entrance music. Remind me never to do that, by the way.
Sanjay came out, by the way, with Sarah Dunnigan.
Yes.
Who's Sarah Dunnigan?
No one knows.
I don't have any idea.
They just said her name. And then Val came out dressed as Elizabeth. They made her up to look just like her. The crowd was dead silent. Preacher did his thing.
Now, I need to cut you off there. People have accused me of exaggeration sometimes and saying there was no heat for any of this. When I say this room was silent, when Val got in the ring, Lethal said, "Yeah," and I swear to God it echoed because there was no other noise.
Yeah. So of course Sanjay interfered. He interrupted the ceremony and said, "Val, the man that you're gonna marry tonight is not Jay. It should be me. It should be me." And of course the announcers were baffled at this turn of events.
And boy, if you had seen the pre-match video for this, when he zoomed in on the angry eyes of Sanjay Dutt and the screen went red,
yeah,
you can't believe how stupid these announcers are.
Got on his knees and started begging. Jay yelled at him, and Dutt hit him with some lattice. And then Ace Young tried to make the save, but he got beaten. And then Koko Ware and Kamala hit the ring and beat up Sanjay Dutt. Nobody cared. Val got dragged away. Jake got the snake, put it on Dutt. George Steele ate a turnbuckle, and then they played Jay Lethal's music. That was the end.
Okay.
This was the worst marriage in the history of wrestling.
Yes. It was very, very bad. But first of all, as noted, everyone on Earth knew Sanjay was going to turn except for Jay Lethal and the announcers. So the announcers are stupid. That's always good. Then when Sanjay did finally interrupt the marriage and things got physical, Jay Lethal tore off his shirt. This man is not well. He would not pass any wellness test in America. So he laid Lethal out with lattice and begged what's her name, SoCal Val, to marry her more. And then, yes, the old men came out to fight him off. And I thought, well, how easy would this be? He lays out Jay Lethal after hitting him with stuff. He's going to lay out all the old legends. Then everyone will hate him and he'll be a dangerous threat. No! The fat old retired guys kicked his ass.
Yeah.
So, they kicked his ass. They beat him up for a long time. Finally, he bailed, and the segment ended with Sanjay and Jay separated but yelling at each other. So it's a feud between the guy who got beat up by old men and the guy who got his ass kicked by the guy who got beat up by old men. What clowns?
This bothered you about this segment. I was just bothered by how bad the segment was in general. I don't even care where it's leading, because no one's going to care anyway. The segment itself was just bad. Then we had an interview with Booker about King of the Mountain. This fucking was great. I had originally just written, you know the deal, because everybody done the same promo. I'm going to win tonight, blah, blah, blah. But I was wrong. Booker had more to say. He said that...
That's right. I don't remember what he said now.
He said, I was begged to come to TNA. I have since increased the ratings and the buy rates. And I should note that when he said this, he smiled. Even Booker T could not take this bullshit seriously. He said he was rewarded with a locker room that smelled like, now, elephant urine. He then botched a line, almost started laughing, pulled it back together, and finished, and that was the only take. This ruled. This was the most awesome bad promo since the one where Scott Steiner had to do math.
No, that blew this one away, I'm afraid. I thought you were going to say since that one in the original ECW when Spike cut a promo on Mike Awesome, and then it ended and he kind of stopped and looked off camera and shrugged, like, wow. But no, this was quite bad. I particularly like when he talked about how winning the title would change the equilibrium of TNA.
That was where he got screwed up.
Yes. And he just kept going, and they didn't care, because they're idiots.
Then we had a sad match. It was Kurt Angle and AJ Styles. I thought it was the best match on the show, believe it or not. As far as the in-ring, I gave it 3 3/4 stars, which exceeded everything else on this program. But with that said, this should have been so much better. Kurt Angle looked under 200 pounds here. He did not look healthy at all. He was clearly hurting. And early on, AJ did a dive over the top and basically did a flying leg drop to the back of Angle's head and neck.
Yeah.
And
it was basically a flying Fameasser.
Yes. This was not good. Kurt managed to, they tried everything. Don't get me wrong. They tried all of their wacky spots, all of the near falls at the end. AJ sold like crazy in the middle of the match. Then he made a big comeback. Angle did all his rolling Germans and everything like that. It was also hurt by a lack of heat.
Oh, yeah.
I think everybody knew there was going to be a ref bump and Karen was going to come out, and so they didn't care about a thing until she did. Which, of course, there was a ref bump, and then Karen came out, and she teased giving a chair to Kurt, but then wouldn't let go of it, and he could not win this tug of war. And then AJ rolled him up and turned it into a Styles Clash for the pin, and that was the match.
The more I think about it, boy, that was dumb. Dumb. You knew that whoever she's going to screw, she's going to tease helping them first. So when she went to Kurt's side, you immediately knew, okay, she's going to end up screwing him somehow. But then, yes, he could not wrestle the chair out of her grip.
Yes. Well, he's got a broken neck.
Which actually, yes, at that point, the match was actually pretty believable. But yeah, this was two really great wrestlers. One of them who was hurt bad. Then they proceeded to hurt each other really bad in a match that was good but not great, and this particular crowd didn't care about at all.
No.
And it was sad. It was like, I wanted them to stop wrestling so hard.
I was in almost physical pain actually watching him in the ring. It was horrifying.
The dive was far and away the worst spot of all. It was so dumb because the spot was AJ hit like a baseball slide drop kick to knock Kurt down, and then immediately got to his feet, hit the ropes on the other side, hit the dive. And Kurt just couldn't get up in time. And AJ just kept running.
Yep.
And he threw himself over, and as noted, he basically guillotined Kurt, sending his head in the ground. Meanwhile, AJ went splat on the pretty black mats, and Mike Tenay said, boy, you can see their heads hit the mat. Tuck your chin, everyone. Mike Tenay is scolding AJ Styles and Kurt Angle on how to take proper bumps.
Well, he probably should.
That's what this match came down to.
This Kurt Angle, the last pay-per-view was 3 weeks ago, and of course right before that pay-per-view, he broke his neck, 3 cracked vertebrae, 2 herniated discs, and he wrestled here tonight with that injury.
Have you seen the tape of him getting injured, by the way?
Yeah. He should be dead.
Well, he should be dead, but it's because
100-year-old man?
a big, clumsy guy couldn't get him up for a body slam and dropped him on his head.
Yeah.
A body slam. And that's how Kurt Angle nearly died.
Yep. Well, that's how Bruno Sammartino broke his neck.
Yes, I guess that's true.
I'm
sure there's others, but Jesus.
It was fascinating to see him take a body slam from AJ Styles. I would have done that, but I probably didn't even think about it in the middle of it. So, anyway, yeah, this was horrifying to watch. Angle, I mean, you could not have a better match with 3 cracked vertebrae and 2 herniated discs. I don't think it's possible.
That's probably true.
You should not.
On the broken neck scale, this is a 5-star encounter.
We cackle about it, but it's quite sad, and the dude really, honest to God, should retire, but you know he's not going to, and because of that, I fear for a tragic ending to the story of Kurt Angle, and that sucks, but what can I do about it? What can any of us do about it? The guy, it was so clear during this match that he's crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's never gonna stop until he can't go anymore, and that's a grand tragedy, but then they did the angle afterwards where Karen and AJ hugged. She raised his hand in victory, and then Kurt beat up AJ with a chair. Threatened to beat her up, of course, since that's the theme of the show. But then she bailed. Tomko ran in, prevented security from saving AJ, and they beat him up. So apparently they'll have yet another match next month, and Angle will be back in the ring, and nothing ever changes.
Yeah, that was, speaking of tragedy, just everything about this except for the wrestling part sucks. It's a broken guy who should be on the shelf healing, still wrestling and hurting himself more. It's a man and his wife screaming at each other when I don't want to see it anymore. It's Tomko's cut off at the neck, or what the hell does that mean? Cut off at the knees, pardon me.
I think cutting off at the neck would be worse, quite frankly.
You may be right. Regardless, he's just a geek again. He's just a sidekick again. And it's AJ who's finally being used correctly, but they're doing it, I don't know. It didn't help. I think when he came back the very next week after the giant beatdown, and then was just a guy, I think that ruined it. He should have been gone for like a month and then come back. And this show should have been his first appearance back in TNA since the beatdown.
Well, it wasn't.
So what can you do?
Did this surprise you? King of the Mountain.
What do you want me to do, dude?
Rhino. What are you talking about?
Every time I say anything,
I'm asking if it surprises you.
I guess it doesn't.
That's all I asked.
You answered in a very condescending tone.
Condescending to TNA.
I see.
Jesus.
And I apologize for my sensitivity.
King of the Mountain with Rhino, Robert Roode, Christian, Booker T, and Samoa Joe. Nash came out. They apparently are drug testing, and somehow everybody is getting larger. I don't think I have ever seen Kevin Nash more muscular than he was on this show.
Perhaps you fail the drug test if you're clean.
Anyway, the ring intros took 8 hours, and
they showed each guy walking through the hallways backstage. I think Rhino was on his way to home ec class. So after showing them walk backstage, then they aired a video package, all of which started the exact same way. He stands 6 foot blah, he weighs blah blah pounds. Then they talked about it for a while. Then they all got their musical entrance. Then after everyone was in the ring, they all got introduced individually. And this was seriously about 15 to 20 minutes of just intros.
And unfortunately, I usually record the show at 5, and then we watch it at 8. But unfortunately, I didn't even think about recording it until 7:48.
It didn't occur to you, hey, we have to watch this show.
No, it didn't actually. And I was like, oh shit, I guess I better record this fucking thing. So we ended up having to watch the damn thing live. But
well, they overdid it, but at least they did something to try to make the main event seem epic. They spent a long time building up to it.
Okay,
Too long.
That's fine, but the problem is this match didn't start until about 30 or 35 after the hour.
That's bad.
Which gave him a good 10 to 12 minutes of pay-per-view time for this battle.
Yes.
I don't know how long they went, but it was...
It could have gone longer.
It was a match where you have to pin or submit somebody to qualify to win. And once you qualify, you can get a ladder and climb up and hang the belt. It's a reverse ladder match. And I actually had forgotten what you hang. I had to be reminded it was the belt. If you get pinned, you have to go sit in a box for 2 minutes. And that was that. So, anyway, not much to it early. Dudes brawling, cameras missing shit. Rhino ended up being the first guy pinned, so Booker was eligible. And then 2 minutes later, Rhino was just released. Nobody cared. Never go to Memphis again.
They did a countdown. Countdown to the end of Rhino's 2-minute penalty time, and the announcer counted down 3, 2, 1, and Rhino came out of the cage, and nothing happened.
Yeah. There was also a moment where Christian got tossed off the top and landed with his leg on the apron and sold it like he'd broken his leg. And even though they show more replays than actual match time on Impact, didn't bother showing a replay of this one. So, anyway.
Moreover, about 3 minutes later, he was just in the ring doing stuff, which means it's probably not planned, and he just fucked up and nearly blew out his knee on something totally dumb.
Well, I think he just landed funny and sold it like he'd blown out his knee, and then forgot about it. Joe did a wacky dive. Christian did a dive. Roode pinned Christian with a chair shot onto a ladder to become eligible. Then Rhino pinned Roode with a cradle. So Christian and Joe were the only two not eligible. You got all this, everybody? You got all this? I had to write all this shit down, otherwise I'd have no idea. So then Joe had the choke on Booker, but Christian did a splash onto them and then covered Booker, so he was eligible. Booker was in the box. Joe gave Roode a suplex off the ladder and then hit Christian with an RKO. And the crowd found this to be awesome. I have absolutely no idea why.
I believe this is the point where they chanted, they were quiet, then they shouted, "This is awesome," and then they immediately shut up again.
Booker got the, let's see, where were we here? Booker grabbed the belt from Nash and laid out Nash, and then when he started climbing, Nash went in and beat him up with a power bomb. And when I say run in, I that of course is being giving Nash more credit than he deserves. He could actually barely get over the top rope and couldn't walk.
He waddled in.
This guy cannot walk. He no-showed the TNA conference call the other day, and he's going to be the #1 contender for the world title soon, everyone. And how many times has he no-showed pay-per-views when he was going to lose? 6 years!
And this surprises you.
6 fucking years!
And you know he got a main event payoff for this thing when his job was to stand at ringside and hit one powerbomb.
Jesus. Then Rhino accidentally gored Christian off the apron through a table and ended up with Joe and Roode in the ring. Roode went to climb, and then Joe gave him a muscle buster, pinned him, and then climbed up and put the belt up. That was it.
That was the end.
This was the most anticlimactic finish I ever saw. I don't know if they were...
In any match, by the way.
They were running low on time because of the long entrances. I don't know. But I was like, wow. You know, people... As much as I hate the idea of King of the Mountain because it's so goddamn fucking complicated, you will have people saying that there have been some good King of the Mountain matches. And I'm sure if I go back and I look at some past reports, I will find that I gave King of the Mountain some good ratings. No. This was
not at all.
I will be so goddamn generous because of the hard work of everybody involved to give this 3 stars. I am not giving it a goddamn quarter star over that.
I think you will rethink that, and by the time this season's printed, it will be down a half star or so.
That's very, very likely.
It is. It was just a match, and they all worked hard. The time thing hurt. The story they were trying to tell, I got, and I like the idea that Joe was the champion, and he should have kept hitting guys with his moves, and the pin would be broken up, so he'd be constantly getting screwed.
Or he keeps hitting people with moves, and someone else stole his pin to be eligible.
Yeah, that would work too.
That took me no minutes to think of, everybody.
Yes.
That was off the top of my head.
Yes. And they even mentioned this during commentary. Don West's exact words were, "You can let someone else do the dirty work and then steal the pin. That's the beauty of it." Which I thought, really? That's beautiful?
Sure.
It's sneaky and backhanded and backstabbing. And
I guess they sort of did it one time because Roode had the choke. Joe
had the choke and Christian had the frog splash.
But Christian did the move.
Yeah.
It wasn't even Joe's choke.
No, it was Christian's splash. So, yes. The idea they had, it was a sound one, but boy, did they botch the execution. And during those, this is trivial now, but I'm going to say it anyway because it makes me laugh. When they did those ring-in shows, I learned that Christian is in fact an inch shorter than Bobby Roode.
That's what they said, yes.
Amazing!
Maybe he has a lot of lifts in his boots.
Christian apparently has 8-inch lifts in his boots then. Because he's way taller in the ring.
Yeah, this was very anticlimactic average main event to this was a below average TNA pay-per-view because most TNA pay-per-views have much, much better wrestling up and down the card. This had 1 3 1/4, or 3 3/4 with Angle and Joe, and a 3 1/2 with the opener, and nothing else came close.
And the worst part is, if you charted this, the show started off okay, and then it wasn't quite worse every single segment, but it definitely got worse throughout the show.
Well, no, the last 2 matches were pretty good. It was just that the giant fucking hole in the middle of this show it was a black hole of shit in the middle of this pay-per-view is what it was.
Yeah, I don't know if you watched the first 10 minutes of Sweeney Todd the other day, which had a line almost exactly like that.
It's exactly what it was. If you would have watched the first 45 minutes of this show and the last 45 minutes of this show, you'd have got a great hour and a half. Unfortunately, there was another hour in there, which, Bad stuff.
So thumbs down then.
I can't do that. I'll give it a thumbs in the middle.
Well, you're a nice guy.
Well, we had a 3 3/4, and 2 and a 3 and a 3.5. That's a thumb in the middle. The middle stuff was awful, but it wasn't bad enough to give the entire pay-per-view a thumbs down.
So you're going to say thumbs in the middle?
Thumbs in the middle.
All right.
Plus, my favorite girl was on here, and she also had a 3-star match.
That actually is true.
So yeah, it's
all right.
and when the women have a...
You may have convinced me, actually. This may have been a thumbs in the middle pay-per-view.
When Velvet Sky is in a match as good as a King of the Mountain match with Rhino, Robert Roode, Christian, Booker T, and Samoa Joe, that's a thumbs in the middle pay-per-view, everybody.
To the back!
All right, my friends. Again, trial by fire for those that are listening to this show for the first time, have never heard us review an Impact. And what an Impact to review. Now, I will preface this by saying that we have said this before about shows, but this is true. This was the best and the worst of TNA Impact. Mm-hmm. There were parts of this show that were awesome.
Yes.
There was even a part of the show that I thought, this is so good that right now, in this moment, I believe that TNA is the new hot thing in American pro wrestling. There was a moment when I actually thought that. There were also moments on this show where every profanity imaginable ran through my mind, where I just wanted to give up. I just wanted to never watch this program again.
I think you're just saying you wanted to give up is all you need to say. You just stop.
Stop.
It's 6 years. That's plenty of time.
It opened up with a dedication to Kevin Angus Sinex, who was the production worker that was killed at the pay-per-view this Sunday night. I'm sure most of you have heard about that. There were a couple of guys on the show wearing armbands, so that was very nice. And that was the open. And then they cut immediately from that to the title of this show, which was called, I Put a Hit Out on My Wife.
Yeah.
You know, I ask this question every week. I'll just disregard the actual, I'll put my hit out on my wife part of it, but I think we're supposed to believe that this show is live. Are we not?
It often seems that way.
So, if that's the case, how can you title the show? Did Angle call them and alert them?
I'm going to cut a promo wherein I say that I put a hit out on my wife. You should make that the title of the episode.
Did AJ call him a couple of weeks ago and say, I will be returning?
I will be getting my revenge.
Put that in the title, that I will get my revenge this week.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to be a tape show. I always assumed the idea was to pretend it's live, in which case these titles are pointless and
stupid.
Wacky.
Yes, that is a great debate. The production guy, God bless him, and he had more of a tribute on the show than a lot of wrestlers have had.
True.
when on Raw, when Sherry Martel didn't get this much respect.
No.
When she passed away. On the other hand, do you want them dedicating Impact to your memory?
Well,
did I cross the line there?
You may have.
All right,
but that's the TNA logo is motto is cross the line. So at least in some way you anyway. Samoa Joe versus Kaz for the TNA title was in fact the opener. Yes.
The world champion defending his belt in the opener.
Kaz, for those of you that don't follow Impact.
You lucky
You.
scoundrels.
Kaz, 2 pay-per-views ago, won a gymnasium match of some sort, the Monkey Bars, and he won the title shot, okay? What was it?
That was the X Division match.
Well, when the fuck did he win the title shot?
He won the King of the Mountain match on last week's show.
Oh.
That was when he won this title shot here.
Okay, so anyway, he won the King of the Mountain match on last week's show, and then he went to the pay-per-view and lost clean to Petey Williams, but he still got his title shot. I don't know. Anyway, these guys have worked together forever, so they had a really good match. This was a great match, a great fucking opener. Those were my exact words. Great fucking opener. Joe pinned him with the muscle buster. It was, I'll cut forward right now because I want to say something here. Later in the show, Joe does this segment with Kevin Nash in the ring, where they're yelling at each other a lot. Joe's mad at Nash for something. This happens every week. Joe gets mad at Nash for literally no conceivable reason.
And screams at him like a girl.
Yeah. Now, watching the Joe Kaz match, I just watched that and I was like, I buy Joe as champion here.
Oh, yeah.
I buy Joe as the best fucking guy in this company.
And the scariest guy in the company.
And the scariest, and one of the best workers. I mean, this was as a showcase for Joe as champion. This opening segment was out of this world.
Mm-hmm.
Then I watched this segment with Nash, and it was like, this is your champion?
This whiny,
this whiny,
fat,
yelling. It was like everything positive about Joe in the opening segment, and then everything negative about Joe in this interview segment. And I was like, how does the same crew put all of this together? It baffles me.
It is amazing. It is amazing. But this match, it was awesome for 3 key reasons. One, it was Joe not playing necessarily heel, but he was the dominant, scary guy who beat up his opponent for the majority of the match, and he is fucking awesome at that. 2, they did not do 9,000 near falls.
No.
They did not kick out of every finisher on earth. Joe went for the muscle buster once, Kaz avoided it. Joe hit it the second time and got the win. The end.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
That made me happy. 3, and these are words that came up over and over again on the show, no commercial interruption.
No.
You got to see the entire match, and it was awesome.
This was great impact.
This was fucking great.
And this was Joe getting to wrestle like the Joe of old.
Yes.
Not this wacky TNA heavyweight style that he's had to work for the last year now. And it was awesome. So then then Booker came out and said, I don't want any lame excuses. I just want to know if you can look me in the eye and tell me that honestly you beat me at the pay-per-view. He said he was going to go to his locker room, and when Joe had an answer, he could come talk to him. All right. Generic Blonde interviewed Angle, and she said, what goes around comes around. This past Sunday, Karen helped cost you the match against AJ. Many in the locker room would say you got what you deserved. He said, that's exactly why I hate women. Those are exact words. Why I hate women. Only could be written by one booking crew in wrestling today, and that's TNA. Said that, asked her how many matches she'd had or how many times she'd laced up the boots. She goes, that's not fair. And I thought, why? Why? First off, why did he bring that up like it mattered?
I don't know.
And why does that offend you that he brought that up?
You're not qualified to be an interviewer if you've never wrestled a match?
I don't know. Anyway.
It gets stupider.
Yeah.
Boy, does it get stupider.
He said he had just gotten word that Karen had signed with TNA, which I could have sworn like 6 months ago they announced that she'd signed a contract.
She's been a regular on-screen character for what seems like at least a year.
I'm almost positive they said she'd signed a contract. Apparently now she's signed a contract, like we're supposed to forget the first time and she's re-signed it or whatever. And he said that now that she's under contract, I can't hit her on TV.
Because they have a no man-on-woman violence policy, he said.
Yeah.
So it only counts if they're under contract. If they're just hanging out and you as a wrestler attack them, Spike TV thinks this is A-OK.
Sure.
But no contracted men beating up contracted women. That's bad.
So then Kurt goes, I'm putting a hit out on her, and I will give a reward or whatever, $500 to any woman.
Did you actually say 500?
No, I made that up.
Okay.
Any woman that can beat up Karen. At which point the blonde interviewer gasped and could not believe this. And again, I thought, okay, if she signed a contract as a talent.
Hasn't every contracted person in wrestling history at some point been beat up?
Shouldn't she be facing the girls? Am I missing something here? I don't know. So, anyway.
Finally, Kurt said he hoped that Karen and AJ ended up, and I quote, comatose.
Comatose. T-O-A-S-T, yes. They talked to Daivari, who's the captain of Team International. He is doing the Daivari gimmick for WWE. Spoke Farsi. They had the subtitles at the bottom of the screen. Said his team was going to win. And then Raisha stormed in and said next week Kong was going to kill some more girls, and she wasn't going to be nice about it this time.
She said she would shed the blood of the innocents.
Sure.
Wow.
Wow.
Harsh.
There will be blood, she said.
Yeah.
Masato Yoshino and Naruki Doi against the Motor City Machine Guns. This was the match where I said, this is TNA, the hot new promotion in 2008. State-of-the-art pro wrestling. This is the fucking place to be. This is the wrestling to watch. It was awesome.
This was fucking great.
These guys were I mean, it's one of those matches, it's no, don't bother recapping it.
No.
Just Saturday night, there's an Impact replay. I can't even remember the last time I did this. Get the Impact replay and watch this match. It was all action. It was fun. It was fast. It was a clean pin, double super kick on Yoshino for the pin. It was so many buys, it's not even funny.
And this made me think, wow, I can't wait for the World X Cup.
Yeah.
Which is key. But yes, I mean, it was, you're right. We can't recap it. We cannot do it justice. Motor City Machine Guns for the first time in forever on the show did not look like geeks.
No.
I was actually kind of surprised they won, but it was just fantastic, phenomenal, A-plus stuff.
This was the best of TNA. And then we cut to Karen Angle. She said, Borash, go find out what Kurt is up to. It's a mystery? He put a hit out on you. What more do you need to know? Suddenly up walked the beautiful people. They said they'd heard she was being paid double the women. She said, it's none of your business. They said, yes, we're making it our business. They said there was a pecking order. It was the beautiful people and then everybody else. Grabbed Karen by the hair. Said, Velvet, get the paper bag. AJ made the save.
Thank God!
She told him to go tell Kurt that if anyone wanted a piece of Karen, they'd have to go through him first. And then Angelina and Velvet told him if he ever wanted to experience a real woman, he could talk to them. The only thing that saved this is how awesome the beautiful people are.
Yes.
Karen... Oh, God.
Karen is horrible.
I am so sick of Karen Angle. And when she first started, remember we were all blown away by how awesome she was?
Those days are gone.
Now she just cries and whines and bitches.
Wails.
It's impossible.
Yes.
And she's supposed to be babyface.
Yes. But yeah, the beautiful people are awesome. I particularly enjoyed Angelina Sky's silent whatever to the camera at some point. But then they screamed, get the bag! And they had the best bad fight ever as the two women tried to overpower Karen and put the bag in her head. And then, as noted, thank God AJ Styles was there to prevent this atrocity.
Yes.
Of a bag being put on her head.
Fuck, well, you know how it is.
Oh, the horror.
You may breathe in some of those fibers. And
you may find her a seat in there.
Yeah, you could get...
Nightmares.
Magellans or whatever it is. The blonde interviewed Nash...
Magellans.
About how controversy. You know, you get the little bugs under your skin, little worms.
Okay.
I don't want to tell everybody about this since it might be psychosomatic and we may end up with a bunch of readers with worms under their skin. Let's move on here. So, what do we have?
Kevin Nash.
The Kevin Joe thing.
I know it was Kevin Nash. He's got a shirt that read, Nash.
Joe yelled at Nash. Nash said, you can't beat Booker T. It's all in your head. And, like I said, impossible to care. I have no idea what went on here. I don't care.
I think I may actually hate Joe and Nash more than I hate Kurt and Karen.
It's a tie. It's very close.
It's very close. I think the key is Joe is supposed to be the hero of this company. And he comes off like such a whiny bitch in these segments. It's so bad. Plus, I know they're going to wrestle at some point, and that is no bias.
And the show continued to go downhill. It actually started out okay here in this segment. LAX and James Storm, or LAX versus James Storm and Robert Roode for the tag team titles. They had a really fun match for a while, and then all of a sudden, Hector took the ref, Storm loaded his boot, super kicked Hernandez, who was setting up for a border toss, and pinned him. And the timing was awful, by the way, as Hernandez had to hold the guy up there forever, and anyway, they changed the titles, and I was sitting here wondering, okay, is TNA going to run to the back and cry to Jim Cornette like he did a few months ago with that other, like the world title change or whatever it was? But anyway, they went to commercial and came back, and Hector had complained to the ref, so the ref just restarted it.
Yeah.
Not a DQ, not a reversal, just he restarted it. So the match just sort of fell apart at that point. It was a mess. They lost the crowd. And then Hernandez pinned Storm with a sit-out powerbomb, and TNA was screaming about how this was justice. Storm beat everybody up, and then they whipped him with straps. And as they're whipping him with straps literally forever, TNA goes, wait a second, now there's an altercation going on in the back.
Yeah.
Seriously said this. They cut to the back. There was a brawl in the girls' dressing room for seriously like 5 seconds.
No, 3 tops.
I think I saw AJ, but I'm not positive. And then they cut to commercial.
That's just horrible. The first part of the match, it was the third match, and at the time I thought it had ended and they got into commercial, and I thought, holy crap, that's 3 matches with no commercials. You could argue there was a commercial in this since it restarted when they came back fine. But the first half of this, before the commercial, was all really good, and then it came back, and Hernandez...
It was all really bad.
It was all really bad. Hernandez was still selling the super kick, and then... At some point, he just stopped selling.
Yeah.
And he just went on offense. And that, I could be wrong, but I think that is when they lost the crowd. When they just stopped caring. Yeah. And then a million things of bullshit happened.
And then we had Gail Kim and Velvet Sky. Oh, man. Velvet Sky, my favorite wrestler.
Still your favorite wrestler?
She never fails to entertain me. She went out there, and the two best parts of this match were the beginning when Gail was running wild, and Velvet had to try and keep up with her high spots, and then the end when Gail ran wild in her comeback, and Velvet had to try and keep up. Both times, she failed.
See, I don't think either one of those is either the best part of the match or her biggest failure.
Well, the defining moment of this match.
I see.
Which was an homage to me. This was Velvet Sky going, Bryan. That's it. That's what she said. Clicked her teeth like that. She applied a figure 4.
No, she didn't.
No.
She attempted a figure 4.
She applied the name of my newsletter, and at one point in my career, my finishing hold, the figure 4, and she messed it up. There's no way this was not a message to me. It's just impossible.
So she was messing it up as a tribute to your incompetence?
Yeah. No, she was like, I'm your favorite wrestler because I always entertain you, so I'm going to put on your hold and do it wrong.
To entertain you?
Yeah.
For you personally?
Or she maybe tried to do it right, which is even better.
Honestly, I think she was trying to do it right. I really do think she tried to do a figure 4 and just had no idea what she was doing.
I have been to a lot of indie shows. Velvet Sky remains only the second person I've ever seen in my life to screw up a figure 4, the other being, yes, Hulk Hogan.
I once got the figure 4 right on my little sister.
Yes.
I was like 11.
This match was phenomenal.
Also, after this quote-unquote figure 4, Gail did her comeback, and she was running around and kicking her and jumping over the place, and occasionally she would stop and grab her knee like, oh, my knee hurts.
She'd been selling the knee, of course.
And then she would keep running around again.
Yeah.
It was actually much worse doing this than just not selling the knee at all.
Or putting up the boot with the bad leg.
Yeah, kicking her with the bad leg.
It.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was. This was a failure.
Yeah.
It's a spectacular failure, though. I'll grant them that.
It was a very, very entertaining failure, although I do have a complaint, and that is that afterwards, Gail won with a neck breaker, by the way. There were drop kicks off the top rope, there were all these wacky high spots, then she just won with a neck breaker. But anyway, so Gail put the paper bag on her head afterwards and beat her up for good measure, and that made me mad, because I love the beautiful people, they get such great heat, and why they cut them off, I just have no idea.
I don't either. Plus, as stupid as the paper bag thing is,
it's over.
It's over.
They're getting over.
And moreover, you'd think it would be... How hard is it? They put the bag on somebody's head for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then in a pay-per-view, oh no, they had the bag put on their head. Justice! They couldn't even build to it.
No.
They just gave it away.
It pissed me off because Velvet should have fucked Gail. Either
I totally agree.
Metaphorically or literally, doesn't matter. But she should have beaten her. They should have put the bag on her head again. Yep. And as you mentioned, it's so easy. The heels keep beating the babyface and putting the bag on her head, and then you get to the pay-per-view, and the babyface gets revenge and puts the bag on their head. Hello? Could this be any simpler?
The more I think about this, the more I agree with you. This is the best act in wrestling. And they lost!
It just pissed me off. Cut them off right at the legs.
Thankfully, things turned around immediately.
Yeah, actually, at first I didn't like it, and then I realized its greatness. There was a backstage interview with Roode and James Storm and Jackie. Now, this is what I did not like about it initially. They did this long promo, and I don't think for one moment they mentioned the tag team titles, that they won and then got taken away from them.
I think you're right.
If I were in a tag team match and I won the championship, and then the ref restarted the match and I got beaten, I'd be pissed. Not these guys. Now, all these guys did was brag about how they beat them up after they had lost the tag team titles. I didn't like that. However, the actual promo by Robert Roode and James Storm was so fucking phenomenal. They also, like the beautiful people, have a catchphrase. It is, they have the two things that matter in the world, the money and the beer. And they were so goddamn excited about
they're
this.
so happy.
Which actually, I almost didn't even get mad about the tag titles because, again, the two most important things in the world to these two men are the money and the beer.
Sure.
Fuck the belts.
And they have money and beer.
So in the end...
And Robert Roode drank James Storm's beer and spat it out?
2 thumbs up segment.
I like to think that's because he's a Canadian. He can't handle our weak American beer, but yes, and Storm in particular was so over the top and awesome here.
Storm?
It's all about characters and making stars, and James Storm was a fucking star in this promo.
Storm, Roode, and Jackie are an awesome trio.
Yes.
We had Alex Kozlov against Curry Man. They had a fun little match, which Kozlov has a gimmick straight out of 1985, and so he did in fact win with a finish straight out of 1985. He did a Russian leg sweep and then a big splash off the top rope. 1, 2, 3. It was so wacky in TNA to see like an ECW TV finish. But I was fine with it.
It was very fun. They had a dance-off where Kozlov did his Russian squat kicks and Curry Man did his Curry Man stuff. And other than that, really, it was just a fun little TV match. Nothing to write home about, but it was fun.
Sanjay was questioned by JB about Sunday and what he'd done. He said he had no comment. And then Joe walked into Booker's locker room and just said, Booker...
Which was the same room, by the way.
Well, yeah, that's the gimmick. Booker has to dress with everybody else because only the champion gets his own locker room.
I see.
So anyway, Joe walked in there and said, Booker, you wanted a title shot of the pay-per-view in Houston? It's all yours. And Booker's like, wow, thanks. And then Joe said, here's my key to my locker room. I won't be needing it. I have no idea what I missed here. Quite frankly, I don't care. I don't know why Joe won't be needing his locker room. I don't know why he was so nice and gave it up. I don't know. Again, I don't care. That's the key.
I am actually more fascinated by the point where he said, you're right, this place does smell like piss.
Yeah.
He confirmed that TNA has shitty facilities.
Yeah. Awesome.
They're ghetto.
Yeah.
He may also say, I am the champion of a low-rent indie show.
May as well have.
Okay.
In fact, I've never been to an indie show where the locker room smelled like elephant urine. So, TNA is even more ghetto than any indie show I've ever worked. Sanjay Dutt and Consequences Creed had a fine little match. The people got into consequences. And the wedding skit, as goofy as it was, I think in some way it worked because Sanjay actually really had great heel heat here. The people really didn't like him, and they really went crazy when Consequences Creed was running wild on him. He won with a 450 and a foul, so that was great. And then Sanjay hit the ring afterwards and challenged him to a match next week in the back of the pink taco, which if that isn't a sexual innuendo, I have no idea what is.
It absolutely is. It's apparently there's one in Orlando too, but I thought the pink taco was somewhere in Vegas. I think the Hard Rock Hotel is the name of their bar, but there's probably more than one pink taco in the world, I guess is the lesson.
I think there are probably quite a few.
Perhaps there may be. But yes, this
probably a few billion, quite frankly.
If only we knew which one they were going to be fighting in.
Go on.
But yes, this is, unless you count the commercial after the interruption of the tag match.
What a visual I had about them both fighting in a pink taco.
Thank you for pointing out the obvious. You got my joke. Amazing. A breakthrough, everyone.
Can we move on?
This is the fifth or sixth match in the show, and unless you count the tag match with the interruption, there was not a commercial in any of them.
Fabulous.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And great.
Then the show just went downhill.
Boy, did it go downhill.
And when I say that, when I'm talking about a Kurt Angle AJ Styles match, you know they had to fuck something up royally. Kurt Angle and AJ had a lumberjack match, and the wrestling was great. Don't get me wrong. In fact, they worked faster than they did at the pay-per-view and harder. And I think that the pay-per-view was Angle testing out his neck and seeing if he was going to die, which as scary as that sounds, that's not even a joke. I think he was making sure he wasn't going to die. So once he figured out he was okay, and he actually felt good after that match, if you can believe that, he went all out here a couple of days later. The man's insane.
See, there were points here where I thought to myself, wow, Kurt Angle right now reminds me of Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania right before his 4.5-year sabbatical.
Well, yeah, but he's a madman.
There was a point where he was trying to copy AJ's spot where he does all the leapfrogs and ends in a dropkick, and he missed the dropkick and landed flat on his back, and it looked like he wanted to die.
And that was a bad landing. That was no buys.
And it's just a flat back bump.
But anyway, so we had that, and Frank Trigg did commentary, by the way. And anyway, the finish, it was all great, and then it fell off a cliff, like it fell off the Grand Canyon. They're doing this match, and AJ made a comeback. Somebody took the ref. Bubba snapped AJ's neck over the top rope. Angle pinned him with the slam. Now, let me break this down for everybody that did not see this match. What we got at that exact moment. First off, we had an Angle versus AJ rematch for free on TV. Number one. Number two, not only was it free on TV, they didn't even build it up for 1 week. You gave away a match for free on TV with no build. Number 2, they may have mentioned this somewhere on the show, probably at the very beginning, but let's say you didn't tune in for that, or you skipped through a commercial and missed it. Kurt Angle did a promo on this show. He did not, for one moment in his promo, mention his match with AJ Styles at the end of the show. That's 3. Number 4, parody bullshit booking. AJ Styles beat him at the pay-per-view, and in the end, it all didn't mean a goddamn thing because Kurt Angle just beat him again on Thursday. So, all 4 of those things take place in one match. Then it gets worse.
It gets so much worse.
Bad guys attack the good guys. Team 3D set up a table in the corner. Abyss made the save. He got cut off. Then he beat up Tomko. Then dudes brawled all over the place. Then AJ put Angle on a table. Then AJ went through the table after Angle moved. So not only did he lose, but he's a geek in the post-match Angle. Angle put him in the ankle lock. Out came Karen. Begged Kurt
This is where it got funny to me.
to hit her. Then Kong came out. So let's see. I don't even want to go back. Karen was trapped in the ring. Kong punched her. And at that point, my DVR cut out.
Thank
Do you remember
God.
any of what I just said? If I did not have detailed notes here, I couldn't have remembered any of that.
This may have been a record for most stuff happening in any one segment.
Yeah. And there may have been more, but my DVR cut out.
None of it mattered.
No.
None of it I wanted to see. None of it made me want to see anything else in the future. It all just made me angry. It was
When as soon as Abyss came out,
Really?
I always love it when a babyface comes out to make the save, and they have to get cut off before they can really make the save. I just hate that.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to have a babyface come out to make the save, just have him come out and clean the ring. Why does he have to come out, clear the ring a little, then he gets beat up, but then he makes a comeback, then he clears the ring again. Sometimes he'll even get beat up again and then make another comeback. And I'm like, fuck you. You've just cut off his comeback. That's bad. So he comes out, then dudes brawl to the back, and he just vanishes. He just vanishes.
I don't know what happened to Abyss. He put Tomko through a table and then he left.
Then AJ makes a big comeback because he'd been beaten. Is he going to get his heat back? No, he gets beat up again like a geek. Great. Right. You just castrated that motherfucker. So then he gets beat up, and then out comes Karen, and then out comes Kong, and then Kong beats up Karen, and I'm just like, who could care?
Okay. I actually am going to count this now. The heels attack the faces. Rhino was at ringside. They took him out with a neck breaker earlier, which both announcers called a 3D because they're stupid. So, he wasn't there. The heels actually had an advantage, which is amazing in TNA. So, the match ends. The heels attack, and they had the numbers advantage, so they're working him over, and they start to lay out tables. That's angle number 1. Abyss makes a save. Angle number 2. Abyss fights with Tomko for a while, gets cut off, eventually puts him through a table. That's angle number 3. AJ fights with Kurt and sets him up on the table and misses. That's 4.
And we're missing all the Lumberjacks brawling to the back.
That happened there somewhere too.
I think that's angle 4. So angle 5 is AJ and Angle.
Okay, angle 5 is AJ and Angle. Which is a long, complicated deal wherein AJ places Angle on the table, then misses a splash, then gets the ankle lock put on him. Then Karen Angle comes out for angle number 6. She and Kurt have words, and then Kong comes out for angle number 7. 7 post-match angles in one segment.
Yeah.
And the last one was the worst, because Kong didn't sprint out to ringside, and Kurt didn't lay a finger on Karen. Karen stood in the ring as Kong moseyed on down.
Yeah.
And I was screaming at her, leave! Just leave! Turn around and run! You've got a 20-yard head start. She ain't that fast. You'll be fine.
Well, no.
Didn't happen that way.
No.
This was such bullshit. If you took this exact same show and it reversed everything, I would think this is just an automatic home run of a show. But it happened the way it did. And
I can't even, not even if you reversed everything.
Well, it would help.
Because then you would have Angle and AJ in the opener.
Doing all that shit. Well, that's...
Yeah.
Well, if you stop watching the main event, you think this is a great show.
Yeah, if you would have stopped right before the finish of Angle and AJ, this would have been totally fine. But just, as is noted, the best and worst of TNA. But again, it will never change. For those of you listening to this for the first time, you will hear the same rant over and over again every time you listen to this show, because we've now been doing it for as long as this website's been in existence, because nothing ever changes in TNA. It's always like this. So, there you go. Jay Lethal did a promo out of gimmick at the Pink Taco.
This is a promo to announce everything I've done for the past year and a half or so has been fake.
But now I'm mad.
Now I'm mad. I'm out of character. Like Randy Savage never cut angry promos he could have ripped off.
Sure. He said he was going to ruin Sanjay Dutt. Booker T and BG James squash match. Booker destroyed him since he's getting the title shot. This made total sense. Mm-hmm. Fine job, TNA.
Yeah,
Not everything has to be to the back. Some men have to be better than others.
Yes, Booker T had to be better than BG James here.
Yes.
For Christ's sake.
So then we had a segment backstage with Nash and JB and Joe. Lots of yelling and screaming. I hate this.
This is so horrible. And keep in mind this is a good show.
Yeah.
This is the worst feud I think I've ever seen. Because I have no idea which of these guys is supposed to be the good guy. I have no idea which one is supposed to be the bad guy. So I'm just left hating both and wanting to turn the channel. This is it. Seriously. It's lowering both men every segment.
If I knew why they were mad at each other, I might care. But I don't. And there's never a good reason for it. They yell at each other and they have explanations. But none of this means shit to me. It's just Joe yelling at him. I mean, there have been times where Nash has helped him. Like when Booker hit Nash at the pay-per-view, and so Nash retaliated by hitting Booker. This made Joe mad.
Right.
What the fuck's wrong with you, dude? So Joe basically said, if you're so tough, why don't you beat Booker? And Nash said, fine, I'll do it next week, rookie. Ooh.
Burn. And also, Joe called Nash Oz.
Yeah.
Which is a reference from, I believe, 17 years ago.
Way to go, Vince Russo. Daivari and Tyson Dukes against the Motor City Machine Guns. This was an World X Cup dealie, Bob. They explained this was awesome. This was Scott Hudson level awesome.
I can't believe you even wrote this down.
Yeah. Tanay goes, all right, the first round will be tag matches. The second round will be singles matches. The third round is a 12-man elimination tag match. And the fourth round is an Ultimate X match. Point system, he said, very simple. The first round tag team matches are 1 point. The second round singles matches are 2 points. The third round 12-man elimination tag team match is 3 points. And the Ultimate X match is 4 points.
Perhaps they do not know what the word simple means.
Care. Try to care. I care about this because the wrestling is awesome. I don't give a flying fuck about this World X Cup point system bullshit.
Winners and losers here absolutely do not matter. Just sit back and watch the awesome wrestling. For example, this match here between the Machine Guns and Tyson Dukes and Daivari.
Yep.
Which was actually a great old-school tag match at first. The heels sold forever. They cheated to cut off Alex Shelley. They worked him over. He made a hot tag to Chris Sabin. He was running wild and making a fucking great comeback. And then there was some bullshit.
Oh, there's some bullshit.
Things just fell completely to death.
They were actually in the middle of the match, and suddenly Tanay screamed, my God, we have something going on backstage. And they just cut away from this great match to show AJ beating up Tomko. This happened in WCW, everybody, which is now dead. And
I seem to recall, by the way, didn't AJ pin Tomko not that long ago?
AJ's just mad.
So now he just wants revenge on the guy he beat?
Yeah. So then they cut from AJ and Tomko backstage to the ring for about 2 seconds and then to commercial. Then they came back and the match got back into the swing of things and it became great. Lots of this is awesome chants and 4-way, and then Shelley pinned Divine with sliced bread number 2. And if they hadn't had that bullshit here in the middle, this would have been on the level of last week's match, which I enjoyed more just because it didn't have this idiocy.
Well, that's a very good reason.
Yeah.
This was a great wrestling match ruined by some horrible TV. The live crowd ate it up because they didn't see any of the bullshit.
AJ was beating up Angle outside. That's what they said. It was clearly not Angle. And I predicted Frank Trigg. I was correct. And they revealed it was Frank Trigg. I thought they just had a stand-in.
Yeah, stunt dummy.
I was hoping that
Which, by the way, a fine idea.
Yeah.
Maybe they can sign Eric Angle to do the wrestling.
He is much larger than Kurt Angle.
Oh, darn.
Frank Trigg is much better. But anyway, the announcers did not seem to give a shit about Trigg at all.
No, he was left lying in the parking lot.
Yeah, and they're just like, boy, what got an AJ? Well, anger.
Rage.
So then we got a Gail Kim bio segment, and I just love the part where she said she knew from the very first day she took a bump that she wanted to be a wrestler. I was like, so how did you get to the place where you took a bump? You thought you were going to be a waitress?
And then you fell?
And you ended up in a wrestling ring and someone punched you? So anyway, that was...
All I know is there's a clip here of Gail Kim choking King Kong Bundy. That alone made the whole thing work. In the whole thing, it was a not a rush job for once. This TNA, sometimes they do personality profiles like this, but they do it in 20 seconds and you're just left confused. This is like a minute and a half, maybe more, and it was Gail talking about how hard she's worked to get where she is, and Pat Kenny and Scott D'Amore talking about how great she was, and they've known her since she started in Border City and how she deserved to be here. And really, on the whole, this is a good thing.
Then we had not everything on the show is good, everybody. We had a fucking Karen Angle promo. I am going to not really acknowledge this much at all. So filled with hate am I for anything involving Kurt and Karen that I refuse to speak any more of this, except she threatened to be at the Impact Zone next week, and I screamed in anger. I
will read my notes here where it says, Karen live, that's in all caps, piss break. That's what she means to me now. So I leave the room. But before I made it all the way out of the room, I heard Don West announce.
Oh, yeah.
I can't even say this. He announced it, he declared it, but he said...
He pronounced matter-of-factly and without remorse. Yes. That is how I described it.
You've got to be scarred for life.
Yes. That's it. It's exactly what I said. Karen, you have to be scarred for life.
He didn't... He was not concerned for her well-being. He didn't care that she was scarred for life, but he wanted to make it known.
Yes, it was a statement of fact. Karen, you must be scarred for life.
Life!
Now, anyway... So, yeah. Then, she'll be there next week. Who cares? So, Cornette called out LAX, who wanted to talk about a special challenge they were going to make for next week. And then once they came out, Cornette cut the promo for him. Great. Then, unfortunately, they gave the mic to Hector. God bless Hector. Should have just let Cornette do the whole thing. So, then he called out, or they signed the deal for a fans' revenge lumberjack match on pay-per-view. 12 fans with straps, beating on the heels.
Basically, yeah.
Yes,
the fans with straps. And Hector, before he signed the contract, he wanted to make sure LAX was down with this match. Mm-hmm. I was thinking, well, they're not going to be hit with straps, so of course they're down with it.
They signed. And by the way, trivia note, Brian Phipps, I believe, has played a lumberjack in one of these, believe it or not.
Huh.
Yeah, got to whip the shit out of people. So, anyway, Hector grabbed the mic and did a promo of his own, and as I said, no buys. And LAX was, they asked Jackie to come out, or Jackie and Robert Roode and James Storm to come out. Jackie came out alone and, almost had a pull apart, almost had a brawl. Cornette said, no male-on-female violence, even if they do deserve it. Redneck wrestling. That's all this is. Dirty South. So, Cornette wanted to know where Roode and Storm were, and Jackie said, I'm no babysitter, one's making money and one's a drunk. And so, Salinas got in her face, and Jackie said, and I quote, are you jealous because those are fake and these are real? Comedy.
That was actually great comedy.
Great comedy.
This segment was horrible until that moment, because even when Jackie came out, she was rambling on about one's drunk and one's making money, and I have no idea what her point in any of this was.
Yeah.
But then there was a boob joke, and suddenly the girls wanted to fight, and the crowd really, really wanted to see the girls fight, and Cornette was holding Jackie back, and Hernandez was holding Selena's back, and the place was going crazy, and then Cornette said, fine, later you can fight.
Yeah.
And everyone went, yay!
Yeah.
And suddenly the segment became awesome.
Then the whole show became awesome. Awesome Kong came out, $25,000 challenge. Borash is actually awesome in the role of explaining the rules for this challenge. And they had two girls in the front row. They chose Taylor, a blonde. She had a fucking great match with Awesome Kong. They had Kong played Vader and threw her around and such. And near the finish, she gave Kong a chair, and Taylor ended up drop kicking into her face, hitting Kong with chair shots, hitting a drop kick off the top, and making the cover. Kong kicked out, but this was the first cover ever in the Awesome Kong $25,000 challenge, and they did not play this up nearly big enough. But they continued wrestling, and finally Taylor was dumb enough to go for a Hurricane Rana, and Kong stopped her in mid-move and power-bombed her to death. And this was an awesome segment. Awesome!
Yes. Kong was Vader, and I guess that would make Taylor sting. And the key is that when Kong was on offense, she was very methodical and deliberate and scary as hell, but she took her time. And then every time Taylor got even a hint of a chance, she and the crowd knew she had to take the opportunity of it right now. And the pace picked up immediately, and she would hit 2 or 3 moves, and then immediately get cut off, and it was back to Kong killing her. This was beautiful.
We had Devon and Bubba laying out Rhino backstage. He was just in rubble. They said they gave him a 3D. We had Guru promo with Borash about how he was very much in love with Val, and Borash told him to go to the Pink Taco and tell Lethal that face to face. Then we had another fun match, Kaz and Alex Kozlov, and what I guess was an X Cup singles preview match. I actually have no idea, nor do I care. But all I care about is they had a great match. The highlight of which was a spot where Kozlov did his wacky Russian squat kicks, which were actually kicks to like the face.
he hit a snap mare, so Kaz was down on the ground, and yes, he put on his wacky Russian hat and his squat kicks to the head.
Had the hat on. He had wacky lucha submissions.
Can we sign him right now?
Kaz made a comeback and hit a back elbow, at which point Kozlov took a full twisting back bump. And finally, he missed the big splash, which I love as a finisher.
Yeah.
He's a Russian straight out of the 80s. He's a mad communist.
Yes.
And his finisher is a big splash.
He is so out of the 80s that he did a move here the announcers identified as, and I'm not making this up, perestroika. That's a Mikhail Gorbachev term from like 88.
Yes. Awesome.
This rules.
So, anyway, Kaz hit the wave of the future for the pin, and that was that.
Sign Alex Kozlov immediately.
Yeah. Christian did a promo saying Rhino had a concussion and couldn't compete, but it was a phenomenal opportunity for himself.
A clue.
Got a Matt Morgan bio package, which...
Okay. I'm not certain, but they talked about his background in basketball. They talked about how he had ADD as a kid, and sports was his outlet when he got older, and he, of course, is very tall, and thus was a good basketball player, and he was invited to play in the McDonald's All-American game, which is a game for high school basketball players, the best in the country. And he talked about Kevin Garnett was in the game, and Stephon Marbury was in the game, and Vince Carter was in the game, and he said he noticed there were not a lot of tall, goofy white guys in the NBA, and he thought this was not for him. Am I missing anything here?
I don't think so.
So I think he's saying that he backed out of this All-Star game because he thought, as a white boy, he could not compete.
Well,
that was the message I got from this promo. So if I'm wrong, blame TNA.
Sanjay showed up at the Pink Taco, and they got into a brawl, and this was so bad it was funny.
In hindsight, I love this.
First off,
I hated it at the time.
The Pink Taco was the most low-rent set you've ever seen. There was nothing pink in this Pink Taco.
No, nor was it a club.
No, there was like...
Clubs have people.
Yeah, there was no people, there were no patrons, there were no employees. It was just a room with some stuff in it, and they had a awful brawl that involved Sanjay or Lethal at one point just climbing a ladder and doing a flying elbow for no reason.
You ruined my wedding, and I am so angry I'm going to climb this ladder at you.
This was so wacky.
Every piece of furniture they hit moved.
Yeah.
The bar, even though Lethal was alone in this room, there were still drinks set up on the bar. So, of course, those got cleared. Then the bar got knocked over. Various things got thrown into walls, and he hit each other with furniture. And finally, Jay speared him through the metal door thing.
Yeah.
He screamed he was going to kill you. And there was a spear, and this is bad.
Team 3D did an awesome promo. It was Bubba talking about AJ. They were going to beat the shit out of him, break his neck for Kurt. And then all of a sudden, Devon grabbed the mic and went nuts about how tonight there was going to be blood and it would be a massacre. And this promo was so awesome, especially Devon.
Yeah.
Devon was fucking a promo man tonight. The man!
He was the dude.
If he did promos like this every week, he would win Best on Interviews in the Observer Awards.
And it's not like Bubba was bad. It's Devon was so awesome.
He was.
And yes, this was promo I wanted to weep. He was like, these guys are going to have a fight later, yeah.
And we had Salinas and Jackie, who did have a fight. Jackie beat the shit out of her.
As she tends to do.
Threw her around, gave her an awesome exploder, whole 9 yards. I would never, ever fuck with this girl. She would kill me.
She did this exploder wherein Salinas, who,
this
by
is
the way...
a 5'2" girl, mind you.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, and so you went to give her an exploder, and Salinas did not go up at all, so Jackie said, okay, fuck you. And suplexed her.
Yes, she did.
With zero help.
This ruled.
Dead weighted her, yeah.
So the best part was at the end, Salinas made a comeback. Jackie cut her off and tried a DDT, but Salinas decided she wasn't going to go down, or I don't know what the fuck happened. So Jackie mounted her, grabbed her fucking neck, and put her in a guillotine and sat back and tapped her out. I don't know if it was supposed to be a DDT finish or that was supposed to be the finish, but I took such perverse joy in watching this guillotine. And then she wouldn't let go. I just wanted to believe it was real.
You had to see the whole thing. Salinas, es muy mal. She's horrible.
Yeah.
She's really, really bad.
She is muy mal.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I did it just for you.
You're whiter than Matt Morgan.
Indeed. Well, that's true. But anyway, so then Jackie beat the shit out of her. And then the finish, it looked like she just decided, I am tired of wrestling this girl. I'm going to end this immediately. And it looked like she grabbed her by the neck. Not even so much as a shoot DDT as just a takedown. Just a woman handling. Just, I'm going to pull you down by the head and squeeze your neck until you quit. Because I'm tired of wrestling you, because you suck.
All I know is I love this. And then she took off her belt and whipped the hell out of Salinas, and the ref tried to break it up, and he got whipped as well. This ruled.
And that, by the way, on top of just being cool because it was Jackie whipping her, the heel got the heat, and now the babyface has revenge to seek at the pay-per-view. This is a perfect segment.
And apparently Roode really was off making money, and Storm really was drunk because we never saw him on the show.
Oh.
Then we had the main event, which was AJ and Christian versus Team 3D, and my God, did they have an awesome match. They had an awesome match. This was one of those matches, actually, where I watched it and I thought, maybe Team 3D really is one of the great underrated tag teams in wrestling history.
They were, on this show, they were fucking stars beyond stars.
They were so great.
They were such an awesome heel team.
Yeah.
They were two big fat guys who first they got their asses kicked forever. Then they cheated to get the heat. They were talking smack the whole time. They were yelling at each other, and for the comeback, Bubba was shouting at Devon saying, "No, you throw him in. I'm gonna throw you at him. I want you to hit him." And this, of course, was AJ's cue to get out of the way. and so then he had to Christian. The segment with Christian and Team 3D, it was those three men alone for like 3 or 4 minutes, and it was so awesome.
Christian beat up 2 men by himself,
yes.
Which is, in fact, how you make a comeback in a tag match.
Yes, that's what a babyface is supposed to do.
I know this is a mystery sometimes to many people today, but...
And he was awesome, and they would cut him off, but then he would outsmart them. Because he's the babyface, and they're the heels, and you don't want to cheer for the dumb guys.
One man beat up 2.
One man beat up 2.
The 2 were awesome selling for the one man.
Yes.
And it finally broke down into a 4-way. They did a bunch of spots, and finally...
And then finally, AJ, after a million counters, AJ pinned Devon.
Yeah.
Because AJ is the guy who's getting the rocket push.
Yep.
So this again was perfect.
This ruled. And then afterwards outran Frank Trigg to yell at AJ for beating on him in the parking lot. And as AJ was trying to explain what happened, the real Kurt ran in and beat up AJ and put him in the ankle lock. And Trigg is now a full-fledged heel. He is, quote, Angle's best friend.
Hey!
And as noted, best impact in years. This rule.
I'm going to say it was the best impact ever.
I don't know if I go that far.
There may have been something with like a Joe AJ match for 1.5 hours or something that was awesome, but until someone proves me wrong, I claim this to be the best impact ever.
So anyway, a 2 thumbs up impact week.
Fuck yeah.
I can't remember the last time I said that. Been a while, everybody. But that was a fantastic show. So,
to the back!
Impact.
This show was called Karen's Return. All right. AJ's...
That's not all right, actually.
Well,
if I was tuning in to Impact, and I turn this on, and I'm assuming no one's a diehard at this point. I'm assuming there are people out there who think, maybe I'll watch Impact this week, and the first thing they see is Karen Angle is going to be on the show, they immediately turn the channel.
Yeah.
Find something else to watch.
AJ Styles and Consequences Creed. This is a fun little match. It was kind of strange to see a relative newcomer in there with a star having a competitive match. It was cool. It's just not something you'd ever see on WWE unless it's like, I don't know, Hunter doing it to, I guess, be Ric Flair, but then killing the guy in the end.
Yeah.
Something like that. So, Angle was shown sitting in a chair in a parking lot outside. They had a spotlight on him. And this was like a show-long Angle. He was waiting for Karen to arrive so that he could hire someone to kill her, I guess. So anyway, they had a good little match. Styles hit the Pele. Styles clashed for the pin. And then as soon as the match was over, Borash came out and beckoned for AJ and told him that Angle was in the parking lot waiting for Karen, and so AJ ran off. And then after commercial, a bunch of geeks were separating Angle and AJ. Karen was there with AJ, and AJ was screaming about this and that, and Angle was screaming about this and that, and Karen was screaming about how she just had to go in there and do her job. Whatever the fuck that means.
What is her job?
And that was that. So there you go.
The match was very fun. I loved it mainly because they did not do 8 billion things. They did high spots that involved like leapfrogs and drop downs and would end in a schoolboy.
Well,
I approve of that.
I saw it differently. This I don't know. Maybe this didn't work for the whole audience, but everything they did was a counter for something that they normally do, especially AJ. Mm-hmm. AJ usually does the wacky whip-in, leapfrog, drop-down, drop kick. But this time, when he did the leapfrog, he got rolled up.
Yes.
And so then, 5 seconds later, he did the drop-down and the leapfrog. He finished the spot that he was trying to do that had been foiled by this Consequences Creed. Mm-hmm. So anyway, this match was awesome.
It was very fun. And then, of course, it immediately went downhill with just screaming and bullshit, and it filled me with hate.
Yeah.
And then the angle ended with Karen going in to do her job, which no one actually knows what it is. And Kurt went one way, and AJ and Karen went the other, and the camera cut away, just showing that they left the car doors open.
Well, Rimmel. So then Bubba came out and cut a promo, telling the fans not to get up and make love to their ugly wives during this match, because they were about to see something they'd never seen in a wrestling ring before.
I just want to know the guy who actually said, "Not now, honey, I gotta watch TNA." I want to know how that conversation ended.
Well, I would guess she would have to be pretty fat and ugly, quite frankly, for him to leave lovemaking to watch Impact.
To watch Bubba Ray Dudley?
She would have to be livestock, perhaps. That's really the only thing. You know what I mean? Skipping lovemaking for Impact. So this would have to be foul.
So if, for example, Hunter and Steph were home, you don't think Hunter's watching Impact?
Probably not.
No.
Well, she is many, many months pregnant.
Oh, Brian. So, are you comparing pregnant women to livestock now?
No, I'm just saying you don't want to poke the child, necessarily. I've never gotten anyone pregnant, but I would think at 8 months...
That you know of.
I would want to be careful. You know? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Wouldn't want to get
better safe than sorry.
Get the little tyke in the eye with that thing.
No. Plus you get an inferiority complex forever.
Sure as shit would. So anyway... What the fuck were we talking about?
I don't know. But
everybody listen to Lance Storm's show today so you can hear him say inadvertent ejaculation about 50 times. This is a great show.
What?
Just listen to it. It's
all right. Wow. Okay. That's even more lewd than our last discussion here.
Yeah. So anyway, then he had a match. He
being Brother Ray
with Christian, and it was a hardcore match. Or no, it wasn't. It was a normal match. This is why I hated this thing. Johnny Devine ran in right in front of the fucking referee with a stick.
Right.
Totally fine.
This is okay.
Ref's like, hey, get out of the ring, stick-wielding Canadian. And then moments later, the stick fell in the hands of I guess, Bubba, and he hit Christian with it. And then now the ref goes, oh, I can take no more DQ.
It was actually even worse.
Such bullshit.
Devine climbed in the ring with a stick, swung at Christian ducked. Christian then took out Devine with the stick. This was not a DQ. But then, yes, the referee finally had enough when Bubba Ray used the stick on Christian. And that was a DQ. The good news is it all went about 2.5 minutes, so they didn't waste a lot of time on it. And then before the match, Bubba had assured us that there was going to be something we had never seen before afterwards. So he's called to the back where Devon and Tomko came out with a glass table. And they set this thing up in the ring, and the announcers were going crazy.
By a glass table, that means a table with a glass top.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a glass, like a all-glass table.
No, it had metal legs and a wooden frame.
Sure.
But the center of it was, in fact, glass. And they took Christian up, and they power-bombed him through this thing, and glass went everywhere. And I could just think to myself, if this is real, Christian Cage is DOA right now. There's no hope. He's just done. And the EMTs ran out, and they took out pre-dyed towels and pressed them to his back, and there were little blotches of blood on them. And I thought, wow, his skin is thick. Christian Cage, it turns out, is bulletproof.
Yeah, it appeared to be sugar glass, and they had all these towels covered with blood, but they found the most bright red blood they could find.
And it looked
so phony.
and it was dry.
Yeah.
It was like fresh blood.
Yeah.
This is hokey.
Announcers went nuts about how a man could have his arteries severed and be killed or his career ended. And so anyway, they brought out all the dorks and did all that. And
yeah, and the announcers were also saying that there was no one to help Christian because Rhino was out with a concussion, and AJ was watching Karen. So Christian has two friends on Earth.
Well, yeah.
AJ and Rhino. So
that's how it is in TNA when everybody hates each other.
So then he's lying
this
there.
I can at least believe.
He's lying there in the glass, and the EMTs are working him over. The bad guys have left. Now Eric Young and Kaz come out. Just thank God you're here.
Yeah.
It saved the day.
I mean, it was, I guess it was, I don't know what it was. I guess I could say it was good, but
no, it was
it
not
really
good.
wasn't.
It was goofy.
It was a good idea to injure somebody, I guess, but I don't know.
The problem was it was too.
They didn't play it up really big, and the announcers went nuts, and they had a bunch of replays. So I guess it was good, but it was like no one could possibly believe that Christian's career was almost ended here.
Yeah,
that's impossible to believe.
People believe Christian went through a fake glass thing.
Yeah. Borash interviewed Nash about the match with Booker. This was a fabulous segment.
Astounding.
When it began, I was angry. I was like, oh, Christ, here we go.
Nash and Joe yelling at each other again.
Joe's going to come in and yell. This is going to fucking suck. So, anyway, he says, Nash is like, I'm just trying to help Joe. I'm trying to give him 10 years' worth of advice and various shortcuts.
He's trying to teach Joe to be lazy.
Yeah. So, Borash said, now, come on, Kevin. I've known you for a decade. I've never known you to be a friendly, helpful guy. What's really in this for you? And then Joe came in, and this is where I was like, oh, if you yell motherfucker, I'm going to fast forward this so fast it's going to make your head spin. But no, they had a friendly chat. Joe's like, oh, is that your bad knee? Oh, no, it's both knees. And Nash goes, ha, 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 you're killing me. And then Nash said, oh, what, shouldn't you be preparing here? And Nash says, what do you want me to do, Hindu squats? Should I take that fake plant and do Muay Thai kicks? Should I read a book by Judo Gene LaBelle? And Joe said, that's a good book. And I thought, fuck, he's right, that is a good book. And Nash said, what do you think Booker's doing, jumping jacks? And Joe said, he's preparing to beat your ass. And then he said he was going to be there to ringside to watch, and this segment ended, and I thought, money.
There's a point in here where it was clear that Joe just assumed they were going to retape the whole thing.
Yeah.
And they didn't.
It was when Nash started talking about Muay Thai kicking the plant and reading Judo Gene LaBelle's book.
And the look on Joe's face is like, well, this is over. I'll just fuck around for a while.
Well, Joe goes, it's a good book. And then I think Nash goes, it is a good book. And that's where Joe got this big smile on his face. And he had to be thinking this was going to be a retape. But they got through the entire thing, and then I guess production was like, that was fucking great, that was hilarious. And they kept it. Hilarity, not known to sell pay-per-views, mind you.
No.
But it did make me laugh. So
they discussed, Kevin Nash and Samoa Joe discussing Hindu squats, Muay Thai, Gene LaBelle, and jumping jacks is always a good time.
I have a Judo Gene LaBelle book. I have Pro Wrestling Finishing Holds, which includes the double ouch, which is a fabulous hold.
And I believe the shank jump.
The what?
That's the same book. There was a book of wrestling folds that we looked at in high school. I'm pretty sure it's the same one because it has the eye block, the Three Stooges. If someone's trying to poke your eyes, you just hold the palm of your hand up to the bridge of your nose so their fingers won't reach.
Yeah, it works.
Well, one of these finishing holds is the shank jump, which is in fact a monkey flip.
Yeah.
And if you're attacked,
I don't know if that's the Judo Gene LaBelle book or if that might be the Earl Lederman book of
perhaps that's the one I'm thinking of
wrestling, which I also have a copy of, 1923 version.
Although I do recall someone on the Ultimate Fighter finale, I think it was Luigi, someone actually did do a monkey flip.
Yeah?
The guy charged him and he planted his foot in his belly and pulled him over.
Whatever works. So, anyway, this was awesome. Borash came out for the $25,000 challenge. They chose a girl named Danielle. This girl, I don't know. She either had never trained before or had only trained for like a month. She was horrible.
And Kong killed her.
God, Kong just
Jesus
beat the shit out of her and then power bombed her. And this girl barely went up, so Kong had to herc her up and then power bombed her hard and then violently kicked her to the outside. And this girl's career.
Don't fuck with Kong.
No, this girl's career's done.
That too.
So then Kong challenged Taylor who's Chantel Taylor, same girl from last week. She hit the ring, they brawled, Geeks ran down, then Cornette came down and said, "You can't just jump in the ring like that." She demanded another chance. A fan screamed, "Don't listen to reason!"
I don't even know who he was talking to, but it was funny.
And then the fans were just going absolutely nuts. The heat was just awesome. They were chanting, "Let them fight!" Now, I realize that everybody on this website gets the observers now, so I'm sure you all are well aware that Awesome Kong has in fact lost the Knockouts title to Chantel Taylor. And that indicates that this happened at a taping.
Or Dave's psychic.
So either, well, Dave's not psychic. So basically, and how's that for a Daveism right there?
I was going to say.
So they had all of these fans going ape shit for this match and chanting, "Let them fight." And to me, that sounds like heat that's going to draw you some money.
Yeah, when fans say, "Let them fight," what they're really saying is, "We'll pay to watch this fight."
And instead they just gave it away for free.
Yes.
These people are idiots.
Yes.
I haven't even seen that show, and these people are just fucking
I know.
morons.
The
heat for this was like nothing else on this show.
If I had not read that in The Observer, I would have watched the segment and think, "Holy crap, this was awesome." And I watched it and I thought, "This is good, but so what?"
You're all so dumb. God, I can't believe they just put it on TV for free. It's just, it boggles the
How
mind.
fucking complicated is this? Okay, fans chant, "Let them fight," and you have Chantel saying, "I can beat her, I want another chance." How hard is it to say, okay, you're not even under contract. First you have to win a match to get under contract. So she beats Tracy Brooks.
Vince.
I'm wasting my time?
Go on.
All right. Then you say,
Maybe
okay.
they're listening.
Sure.
And they'll go, huh?
So
You don't say.
Then you say, okay, now you gotta win a title shot, now you gotta beat Gail Kim. So she beats Gail. Now she's a title shot, and now they've done 3 weeks building to it, and I think that coincides perfectly with the pay-per-view, actually. Was that really hard?
Apparently. How much time did you put into that?
None. Literally none.
Well.
I thought of it off the top of my head.
Yeah, these people are idiots. Got the story of Angelina Love growing up in this business, or whatever the fuck it was.
Something so surreal about Scott D'Amore talking about what it's like to train people and watch them develop.
And he goes, "Boy, she looked young. 18.
that was, whoa. What happened? Did you just break the pen?
I was talking about how Angelina was 18 and my fucking pen just broke.
Wow.
What a moment that was here on this show.
Watching her develop.
The hard thing just
went off in your hand.
It did. That's exactly what happened. Christ. It's time to play a song.
Now that I think about it, there could have been a natural explosion. Perhaps it was St. Elmo's fire.
Coincidence.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with that.
This is a remix.
That's impossible. It was a song in the 80s. Perhaps St. Elmo's fire knocked Vince on his ass.
I'm going to knock you on your ass in a minute.
I was like, this is a great song, St. Elmo's Fire. We need to make a music video on the next DVD with you in a blue screen of this song. Then after about 11, I didn't need to ever hear that song.
God, I'm cool.
When the St. Elmo's Fire came on the radio,
That's
you
me.
cranked that thing up.
Yeah, entirely like it.
Wow.
St. Elmo's Fire. It's been real, kids.
Bye.
Thanks for listening.
Wow. That was fine stuff.
It really was.
I take it back. George Carlin's not funnier than us.
That was the St. Vinny's Fire Harmonica remix. Yeah. Top that one. All right. Okay. So anyway, where were we? Don't start. I'll get back to where we were. Frank Trigg came out and said if AJ mistook him for Angle last week, he didn't care. All he cared about was the fact that he got beaten on from behind. Unacceptably said. Told AJ to bring his candy ass out there right now. Still writing for The Rock. God knows how many years later. So, anyway, AJ was in the back.
AJ was in the back. He was in the room alone with Karen and JB. And he said specifically, stick by me, Karen, so I can protect you.
Yeah.
So the first time someone calls from the ring, he runs down there.
Indeed he did.
And all I could think was, you dumb redneck. And sure enough, literally before he got to the ring, Kurt Angle was in there harassing Karen.
Yeah. He brought in the beautiful people.
He had to have passed him. He had to have passed Kurt in the hallway at some point. Kurt was there so quickly.
Too stupid. So Angle brought in the beautiful women, the beautiful people, and they accosted Karen.
That's a word for it, sure.
They forced her to sit in a chair, and then they put a bag on her head.
Right. And
yeah.
Mike Tenay referred to this as a beatdown. Now, the funniest thing was, that's a beatdown, but when Jeremy Borash got kicked right in the balls, no mention of this.
Well, no.
No one cared about that.
That was a moment of celebration, I'm sure, for the announcers.
It may have been.
So, and it was Velvet Sky, by the way. Velvet Sky beat up Jeremy Borash. That is a segment for the fucking ages right there. So, anyway, that was the whole deal. And, I don't even know if we saw Karen at any time throughout the rest of this show.
I don't think any of these people returned, actually.
She was so embarrassed to have a bag put on her head that she just went home or something.
And the beautiful people had done what they showed up to do. They put a bag on her head.
They did. Mission
accomplished.
I wonder how much Kurt paid them to put that bag on her head.
I wonder if he paid for the bag.
We had Naruki Doi and Masato Yoshino versus Ultimo Guerrero and Rey Bucanero. This was fucking great.
This was the shit.
I won't even bother recapping this match.
No.
Just get the Saturday replay and watch it.
For God's sake, watch this. And I can't wait for the World X Cup now on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So this was a home run.
This was great. The crowd heat was very iffy early because it was two sets of foreigners, quite frankly. But then it was so fucking great that the people got into it. And Guerrero and Bucanero hit their combo surfboard, twisting moonsault off the top for the pin. And they're the greatest men in the world. Yeah, this was a fine match. Lauren interviewed Val and Black Machismo. And you have nothing more to say about that prior match that you loved so much? After you pointed out that words can't describe it, everyone go out of your way to see this. This ruled. Ultimo Guerrero needs to be on every show forever. He in particular is great, although there's certainly nothing wrong with Yoshino and Doi and Rey Bucanero. But yes, this is fantastic stuff. And as noted, aside from a small contingent that was chanting Mexico for the Mexicans, people didn't really care. And then by the end, they loved it because it ruled. Thumbs up. Buys. So anyway, Val was in there with Black Machismo doing an interview, and he was going nuts. And then Val said, maybe we should postpone this marriage for a while. And all of a sudden, he went out of Randy Savage mode and said, what? When it started, because he was in Randy Savage mode. He was being crazy, freaked out Savage, which I've seen so many times. And I thought, now see, this is good. This is better than when he dropped character. Because that made everything else look phony. So then she said she was going to postpone the wedding, and he became Jay Lethal again. And the whole thing became a sham, and it was dumb. And I hated it. On the plus side, Val's breasts look awesome. Wow. So yeah, that was that. And then we had a fabulous segment. Sanjay Dutt came to the ring. He was accompanied by children in matching hats and tambourines, and a graphic read, and I'm not making this up, Sanjay Dutt with his 4 guru-ites. Yes. So he got down to the ring, and they had, I don't know what they're called, Indian pots with smoke coming out of them, and he sat down on a rug in the middle of the ring, and the children were outside banging on the tambourines, and he cut this awesome promo about how he was there to celebrate peace and love, and he wanted Jay Lethal to set Val free, and he knew once she was unshackled from her chains, she would declare her love for him, and he would love her, and all would be great. He tried to get the fans to chant, set Val free, and there was fire and passion in his voice, and it sounded like he believed what he said. And finally, Val came out. She came out, and she did not yell, I don't love you. She yelled, you ruined my wedding day. It's just believable. And then
there was a great shot because she was on the ramp and the camera was looking at her on the ramp, but over her shoulders the entryway, and Jay Lethal came running out of there as fast as he possibly could. He came running down the ramp to beat Sanjay's ass. And they had a little brawl, and it was good, and Jay was going to go up top to hit him with a big elbow, but Sanjay rolled out of the way and hid behind the children. That made it great.
Yes.
He pulled the youngsters in front of him so he would be safe.
Yeah.
He used them as a human shield, like a coward.
This was a fantastic segment.
God, I love this.
And then it got better. Booker T made over his dressing room.
Did he?
He invited in Jeremy Borash. He was wearing a amazing bathrobe.
Well, the best part is he wasn't wearing it at first. He was wearing just a normal suit. And then when he introduced Borash, he made JB take his shoes off. And as JB went over to look at the artwork on the wall, Booker changed jackets. He removed his suit jacket and put on his smoking jacket and pulled out his pipe.
Yes.
And Borash was looking at the pictures, and he points to one and says, "Holy cow, this is the photo of you and the greatest!" Or, "This is the photo of the greatest!" And Booker says, "Yes." And the other fellow is Muhammad Ali.
Yes.
God, this was awesome.
And then he sat Borash down on the red couch. He explained that the ratings and the buy rates were up because of him. He was going to kick Nash's ass because he was the greatest. And that was that. This was
Nash is beneath him.
A beautiful segment.
This is so awesome from beginning to end. Everything about it.
I don't know if Booker T is worth a single buy, but I love him. He's so great. He's so great. So anyway, thumbs up to this man.
Then he kicked Borash out so he could prepare, and that apparently involved smoking his pipe.
Yeah. They build a Knockouts Bimbo Brawl next. Seriously, Knockouts Bimbo Brawl.
What does that mean, Brian?
Anybody in this fucking company like girls? Anyone? The only person we know is Devon Dudley, and he likes fat ones. That's the only thing we know. And I guess AJ. But he hasn't fucked Karen, so who knows? Who knows? Is there a straight man on this show? Who can we confirm on this show is a straight man?
Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt.
Okay,
they're
those
fighting
are the
over a
only
girl.
two so far.
They're the straight men.
And she's going to turn on one of them, so one of them is going to hate women after this.
That's right. They're going to be down to probably just Sanjay.
So we got a stupid segment with, actually it started out stupid and got great. It was Tomko, Angle, and Borash. Angle refused to believe that Karen and AJ had not performed sexual intercourse.
And somewhere in here, speaking of not liking women, Jeremy Borash said, and I quote, "I'm all in favor of putting a woman in her place." Wow.
This fucking show. So, anyway, Team 3D walked up and told him to relax. He was making a fool out of himself. And everybody agreed that Angle needed a new woman.
And they all agreed that Karen was ugly.
Yes, indeed.
And Kurt said, "Well, I'm so busy, I had to settle." So Bubba said he had a giant, thick black book full of playmates and other hot chicks, and he was going to set Kurt up on some blind dates.
Yes.
And Kurt agreed, but he said, "No fatties.
Yeah.
I know Devon's reputation."
Yeah.
And then this had to be an ad-lib, and it was so awesome I don't even think you noticed it, but Tomko very quietly said, "That's Divine, actually." And it was awesome, because it had to be an ad-lib. Divine was nowhere to be seen, so he wouldn't even see this until he went back home to Canada and watched the show, and said, "Hey!"
I thought Devon actually said that. That was where my confusion lay. So anyway, he wanted to know what was in it for them, and Bubba said all they cared about was Kurt's happiness, and they kissed him on the forehead, and Kurt concluded, "Those are great men."
Yes, by the end, this was fantastic. Next week, we get to see Kurt doing wacky comedy with Bubba's blind dates.
Oh, boy.
Bubba, the guy who, I think it was Bubba, who once was quoted as saying I forget where it was, but he said he enjoyed visiting there because they had great jack joints.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the women he produces.
ODB versus Moose.
In a knockout bimbo brawl.
Yeah.
Moose has music in a video. It begins with her growling, "I hate bimbos." Yeah. And then a wacky country twang begins, and she came out with a shopping cart that had a sign on it saying, "I hate bimbos," in case any of us were confused as to where she stood on the bimbo issue. She's anti-bimbo, it turns out. So she came out. ODB, she had the shopping cart full of plunder. She was shown earlier loading this shopping cart. There were crates laying around with bats and hockey sticks just on them. and she would push her cart by and put them into her cart. So she came out, and then...
We haven't even mentioned the fact that she hangs out with Team Prawn.
Yeah, she hates bimbos, but she enjoys the company of Angelina Love and Velvet Sky. I guess they're not bimbos, Brian. I guess they're not bimbos. ODB came out, she had some sort of face mask on and a hot pink snow shovel. I don't know where she found this, but she did. They proceeded to hit each other with a lot of plunder. There was a point where Moose got body slammed into the shopping cart, which I suspect sucked, and then pushed into the wall, and then they hit each other with all sorts of stuff. There was a chain was used for a long time for choking purposes, and then ODB got her big shovel, and she waved it in the air, and everyone was going crazy, and I think it was plastic, but she bonked Moose in the head with it and made the pin, and the crowd was going crazy, and then Moose kicked out.
Yeah.
They kept going, and Moose eventually hit a double-arm DDT onto a chair for the win.
Why?
Don't know.
No one knows.
What? Seriously.
A mystery.
The more I think about this, the dumber it is. People like ODB. It's not like losing to ODB would have hurt Moose.
No.
It's not like they have plans for Moose.
Maybe they do.
I guess they do.
Maybe
Moose and Taylor will be the next big feud.
Wow. There's a money feud right there. Moose and Taylor. Moose.
She'll probably call Taylor a bimbo and then say, I hate bimbos.
Moose.
Right.
Moose.
My first match in Tacoma was against Moose. Different Moose.
Different Moose, you say.
Yeah.
Then we had Nash and Booker in a no DQ match, set up from the shitty DQ earlier, apparently. Now, I talked about this match with Dave prior to, it was a couple of days ago. I don't know if it was on the weekend show or the Monday night show, but anyway, we're talking about this, and actually it was, I think, Monday, because the tapings had just wrapped up, and he mentioned that, we have Nash actually did a job here. He lost to Booker T. And he lost because Joe's interference backfired. He goes, this is the best possible scenario, short and long term. Wrote about in the Observer as well. Anyway, on paper, perhaps this is a great idea. In execution, epic fail. First off, Nash is, I don't even know why I bring this up. Nash is immobile. Newsflash.
He did take a bump, I should note.
He did take a bump.
I was flabbergasted.
But largely immobile. And anyway, Joe was down there with a chair, just watching. Booker ended up outside, hit Joe with the chair, laid him out, got back in the ring. And then, of course, Joe hit the ring, and he went to hit Booker, but accidentally hit Nash. Now again, on paper, fine. Here's the problem. What did he hit Nash with?
A super kick.
No.
No?
A side thrust kick.
I see.
To the abdomen. Maybe I'll be generous and say the pectoral
chest
area. The chest
the
area.
Sternum.
He went for a side thrust kick, according to Mike Tenay, missed, and hit Kevin Nash. So after hitting Nash, and keep in mind that a side thrust kick to the abdomen of Booker T is going to hit even lower on Kevin Nash. He hits Nash with the side thrust kick. Booker covers Nash and pins him.
It didn't look good.
No. Suffice to say.
It looked bad.
That's the best they could come up with. Not a chair shot in this no DQ match. Not fire. Not a Samoan stick of some sort.
No.
Volcanic ash. The best they could come up with was a side, volcano.
Lava would hurt.
Lava.
Okay.
The best they could come up with is a side thrust kick that I guess hit Nash in his bad heart that suffered a number of heart attacks before main events and pinned him.
Right.
Bad.
This does not make you want to buy the pay-per-view?
No. This is fucking ridiculous.
Future pay-per-view.
It's ridiculous.
It was a very flat inning to what had been a very fun show.
Yeah. So there you go. That was the end of the show.
It was not as good as last week, but still, this is 2 weeks in a row with good impacts.
Nash is going to wrestle Joe.
Yes.
In a pay-per-view main
event. For the
event.
title in the main event of a pay-per-view. I understand this. I can't say I'm going to accept it, but I'm going to I don't know, cope? How could they be so dumb?
This ain't gonna be any good.
No, it's going to be a poor encounter.
It's gonna be shitty. So anyway, everybody, that's the impact. But it was, yes, it's impact has picked up the last 2 or 3 weeks now.
Honestly, impact has gotten better since the merger.
Yeah, it has. Fuck, maybe that's the whole deal. The merger has improved